Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Game Week 6, and you have plenty of UCL fantasy content to look forward to over the weekend, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And the plan is to do a reaction stream tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat. Of course, there is a game at around 8 PM between Tottenham Hotspur and Wolves, and that's usually when I go live for those Saturday night reaction streams. And expect one next week, of course, and then we have an international break, and a massive welcome to all the channel members, patrons, subscribers, and super chatters. You're all massively appreciated. And to kick things off, as always, Paredes being an absolute legend of the channel, gifting 5 memberships. So for everyone who gets gifted a membership, that means you get early access to my videos, priority applied to comments, and that is very useful in an FPL deadline stream, and particularly in those UCL fantasy deadline streams, which are extremely hectic, to say the least. Stay tuned for the next one on Tuesday, and thank you once again to Paredes. So to Doriana Hills, Pieter, Glenn Jensen, Yanis, and Roy, enjoy those memberships, and Paredes is the one to thank. So let's go to the questions by channel members first, and then we'll kind of answer it in order of submission. So Mario Rodriguez says, "Hi guys and Dylan, pick Anderson or Van der Ven for the next 4 game weeks." I'd still go for Van der Ven. Joachim Anderson can get defensive contribution points, but I look at those fixtures for Fulham, and whilst one clean sheet on top of defensive contribution points could mean a massive haul, I still think Fulham will concede in most of those matches, and Van der Ven has far more clean sheet potential, especially against Wolves and Leeds over the next 2 match days. So I'd rather go for Mickey Van der Ven. I think with all Tottenham Hotspur players, especially in that defensive line, they are subject to rotation, but the most likely for this weekend is Pedro Porro over Romero and Van der Ven, who got the full rest against Doncaster in midweek. Silly Bear says, sells to Donnarumma for a -4. I wouldn't do that this week. I am backing a 2-1 victory for Forest and a 3-0 win for City, but if those scenarios happen and we're looking at Sells getting 2 or 3 points, Donnarumma gets 6, is it really worth the hit? I don't think so. Long term, that's kind of the question. It will probably pay off, but I would keep Sells for this week and maybe reassess this and do a free transfer in Game Week 7. But my issue with goalkeeper moves is that it's not really ideal in terms of taking a hit for it, and you want to focus your transfers in the outfield positions. Richard Melichip says, "Hey Dylan, Foden or Doku?" I prefer Foden. Doku has been impressive recently, but I think Foden will be more efficient in terms of goals and assists. We saw that in midweek against Huddersfield with a goal and assist. He provided an assist against Napoli and obviously scored against Man United and scored 12 points a few game weeks ago. Start Gabriel or Van der Ven? Normally I'd say Gabriel, but I think this is one of the rare circumstances where I would favour the Spurs defender and Van der Ven against Wolves at home, which is a bit of a bogey team for Tottenham Hotspur, but yeah, I still think Tottenham Hotspur have a great chance of a clean sheet and winning this weekend. With Arsenal, I'm kind of in 2 minds about it. They are the better team compared to Newcastle, but they've really struggled at St James's Park recently, so I would go for Van der Ven this week. Oscar says, should I triple captain Haaland? I believe so, yeah. It all depends on your strategy, because the Game Week 6 wildcard looks very enticing for some people, but yeah, I think it's a very decent move. Awale, good to see you, and thank you for always moderating the channel. He is the one with the first question, and he says, how is this team, Dylan, on the wildcard? Donnarumma, Dubravka, Pedro Porro, Chalobah, Senesi, Gabriel, Goodmanson, Semenyo, Ndai, Bruno Fernandes, Caicedo, Reinders, Richarlison, Haaland, Joao Pedro. Yeah, looking really solid. I've got a similar structure in terms of my wildcard squad, which I talked about very recently. You can't really go wrong with Goodmanson, Alderete, Mukiele as your 4 million defender. Rodon, sorry, is another decent choice. Chalobah, I'm a bit unsure about still. I know he's 5.2 million. Decent return so far this season. Probably the best way of covering Chelsea defensively right now. I still have some doubts about him long term, but it still makes sense. I like these picks. The midfield looks really solid. I'd go for something identical on the wild card. And up front, Richarlison as a short-term pun, I can get on board with that. I just think in a couple of weeks' time, Richarlison could be benched from time to time, and I think there are better options like Gyökeres in a couple of weeks. But for the next 2, looks absolutely fine. And good wildcard squad. Just my only concerns would be Chalobah and Richarlison. So thank you to Anish for the super chat. We'll get into your question now. He says, hey Dylan, Raya, Senesi, Van Dijk, Chalobah, Gakpo, Bruno Fernandes, Eze, Semenyo, Kudus, Haaland, Joao Pedro. On the bench, Dubravka, Igor Jesus, Lacroix, and Goodmanson. Yeah, looks good. In terms of the bench order as well, I would have a few debates about it, because Goodmanson has the better fixture on paper, so to speak, compared to Lacroix, but you'd still expect Bournemouth and Liverpool to score. And Lacroix's more likely to get DEFCON, especially in one of these tougher matches. So I think the bench order is just about right. Will Igor Jesus start this weekend? I still think Chris Wood will, because of that quick turnaround from the Wednesday to the Saturday, and Chris Wood got the full rest. I think that's really important. So Igor Jesus could start eventually in the next couple of weeks. Even this weekend, it's a possibility, but I think Chris Wood will get the nod against Sunderland, and I'll show you my final predicted lineups in today's podcast. A few changes have been made from the video that I did yesterday. But yeah, ultimately, it's a good squad. I think Brighton-Chelsea could be high scoring. Chalobah is still a decent choice in there. Raya is the best long-term goalkeeper in my opinion. Obviously, there's a debate about him versus Donnarumma and how to cover City and Arsenal defensively, but I really like that pick. Kudus has a great record against Wolves. So in terms of your starting 11, I think it's just about right. If you're backing Igor Jesus to start, though, I would be tempted to put him in your lineup over Eze. That would be my only sort of advice there, because you set things up very well. And in terms of a few long-term problems or things to maybe tweak, I think Igor Jesus could be one of them, actually, despite his really good form. And maybe Chalobah, but that doesn't seem like a priority transfer at this moment in time. Best three strikers on a wildcard this week. Very template. That's what my answer is going to be. But I discussed this in my wildcard video, and my favourites would be Haaland, Joao Pedro, and Victor Gyökeres long term. Yeah, no worries, Easy. That's absolutely fine. I do understand that, you know, some of my reaction streams and deadlines will be very late for some people, but yeah, I always appreciate those that tune in, even if it's later on. It's still no issues there. Richard says bench Watkins or Wirtz this week. It would still be Wirtz. I've seen some Liverpool lineups with no Florian Wirtz in there, and I've really considered it when, you know, analysing these predicted lineups, and it's always a difficult task, you know. You think, wow, could I get 100%? And then you're like, oh, this is 50-50. Yeah, it's going to probably go the other way. But I still think Watkins, with his brilliant record against Fulham, I know his confidence is absolutely on the floor right now. He missed that penalty, but he's never been a good penalty taker, even when he's, you know, enduring one of his purple patches. So I'd favour Ollie Watkins here. I think Villa-Fulham could be low scoring, but it could be a 1-0 win. Watkins scores the winner, and you're looking at 9 points. And to be honest with you, for everyone watching, and yes, I did sell Ollie Watkins this week. He is going to score. I've absolutely made, you know, I've come to terms with it. As long as Haaland can outscore him, I'm fine. So enjoy the points. I think Watkins will do better than Wirtz this week, so that is my recommendation. Start Kudus or Gyökeres? Yeah, this week it would be Kudus. Long-term Gyökeres is a great pick, but against Newcastle, a bit of an awkward fixture. It all depends on how Newcastle sets up, because if they play really aggressively and do a high line, I think Gyökeres could thrive on that, but I don't think that'll be the case, because if you look at the last couple of matchups between Newcastle and Arsenal, Newcastle have sat very deep, and that is the best way to play against the Gunners, like Man City did last weekend, so it would be Kudus for me. Sudindra says, which one to bench out of Munoz, Konsa, Borro, and Dewsbury Hall? Very difficult question. Ultimately, Borro could be the one who is benched himself, and Spence plays as the right back and a doggy on the left, but out of those four players, I think Konsa has the lowest ceiling. A clean sheet is possible against Fulham, but I would probably bench Konsa there. Dewsbury Hall can get some assists from set pieces, which I really like against that struggling West Ham side, so yeah, I think that's the way I'd go about it. I've done my one free transfer to sell Wirtz to Foden, and now who should I bench out of Watkins, Rodgers, Wood? Probably Rodgers out of those three. The only concern there is if Chris Wood will start, and I do have a few concerns about that myself, but I'm just going to hope that he does get the nod and plays over Igor Jesus. Or should I sell Wood to Richarlison for a -4? Normally, I don't like that sort of transfer, but over the next 2 weeks, I think Richarlison could be one of the best forwards in FPL, and I do rank him very highly now in the captaincy options, as you'll see very soon. He also has 6 goals in 12 games against Wolves throughout his career. I don't think he's ever scored against them for Tottenham, though, but I think with extra minutes and his increased role in the squad, that could change. I'd still probably keep Chris Wood, to be fair, and bench Rodgers in your situation. That would be my advice, but I don't really blame you if you want to take that punt and go for Richarlison. He would be a sell around Gameweek 8 or 9, though. That is why I would prefer keeping Chris Wood. Paredes says, start expected minutes. I think he'll start, and a lot of predicted lineups I've seen from The Guardian, I think Standard Sport, and different websites and newspapers, they indicate that Sarr will start, and I have made one change to my Crystal Palace lineup, and that's Yeremy Pino starting alongside him. Now, maybe Crystal Palace will keep Kamada in the team and then have one of Bino or Sarr as an impact sub, but I believe both of them will start and they form part of Crystal Palace's best attacking line, and I think long-term that will do very well and replace Eze to a relatively decent extent. Look, as much as I like Mateta, he's facing Liverpool this week. He did score against them in the Community Shield, but I think Watkins is a better pick this week on paper. I would keep Ollie Watkins personally, but yeah, long-term I understand the move to Jean-Philippe Mateta, but it's not something I will do this week. So there is another super chat in the building. Genius Gamer says Anderson or Richards on Wildcard. Yeah, good question. Both of their fixtures are quite tough, but I still think Palace have a better defence. They'll keep more clean sheets. In terms of DEFCON, they're both good, but Anderson is arguably even better. I would still lean towards Chris Richards personally, but Joachim Anderson is good. And thank you to Mitra for the super chat. I finally found you. On a wildcard pick 1, Raya versus Gabriel, Gyökeres versus Saka. For a short-term punt, Xavi Simons versus Kudus versus Mbumo versus Foden and Isak. Okay, so in terms of the Arsenal defensive coverage, it would be Gabriel. And this is something I discussed in my wildcard. There isn't much separating it. And in isolation, you could argue that Raya is the best goalkeeper, but having Donnarumma and Gabriel is a very nice way of covering City and Arsenal defensively. Gyökeres against Saka is another difficult question, but right now I lean towards Gyökeres because you can also have Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, maybe Phil Foden as well, or you have Foden instead of Bruno Fernandes. It's all covered in my wildcard video from a few days ago. I'll probably refer to it briefly in today's live stream as well. So my answers will be Gabriel and Gyökeres right now. In terms of a short-term punt, I'd probably go for Foden. Kudus is a close second. Great record against Wolves. I think Spurs have some good fixtures over the next couple of weeks. Isak should start today. That goes without saying, but Arne Slot has been very insistent about him managing his minutes. So he kept mentioning 60, 70 minutes as the kind of time frame they're looking at. So I think Isak could still be subbed off, and don't be surprised to see Liverpool do something a bit different, like playing 2 number 10s like they did against Man City last season at the Etihad. They can play Florian Wirtz as a false 9. They've got the likes of Cody Gakpo, who is out of form. I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans call for him to be dropped, by the way. There is also Chiesa, who was outstanding in the Carabao Cup, probably his best performance in a Liverpool shirt in midweek. But yeah, it's probably going to be Foden as a short-term punt. Yeah, second there. My scoreline predictions were talked about in my lineups video yesterday. I'll refer to them very soon, so thanks for reminding me. I'm going to go for a lot of different screens, but just answering a few more questions first. Thank you very much. But yeah, one change I've made is the Arsenal game, but with that one, maybe my heart is rolling over my head. Silly Burr says, do you think it's better having Donnarumma between the sticks and 2 Arsenal defenders rather than Raya and 1 Arsenal defender going forward? Yeah, great question there, and certainly a big debate. Yeah, double Arsenal defense is absolutely viable. The thing is here, this might not really seem very logical, but my preference usually in UCL Fantasy and FPL is whenever I double up on a defense, is to have 1 goalkeeper and a defender, because you've only got 5 defender spots. To have 2 of them occupied by the same team, if they've got a very tough fixture, I mean, ultimately you can just bench one of them, right? And it's kind of similar to the goalkeeper situation, but I don't know. In terms of the structure, I would prefer having, let's say, for example, Raya and Gabriel instead of Saliba and Timber or Saliba and Gabriel. But in terms of your question specifically, in my wildcard video, I discussed having Donnarumma and Gabriel, so that would kind of play in towards that sort of structure instead. But yeah, I think the Raya Arsenal defender is my favourite moving forwards if you really want to double on Arsenal, who have been very solid defensively so far this season, and long may it continue. Who is the best Formula defender to play and start this and next week? Yeah, the thing is, Leeds have been decent defensively this season, but they're facing Bournemouth. I think they'll concede. Not many goals, by the way. I believe that will be a very low-scoring game, but yeah, difficult one. You've got Sunderland against Forest away. I think they'll concede. And by the way, Forest created 6 big chances in the first half against Real Betis. If they can provide that service to Chris Wood, I'd be very confident this weekend, but yeah, it's probably going to be a Leeds defender over the next 2. They are top of the FDR alongside Wolves over the next 5 game weeks, so it would be someone like Goodmanson or Rodon for me. Cian Sherlock says, morning, who do you think is in the best 5.2 mid or below? Dewsbury Hall, especially this week. Long term, if you want that sort of eighth attacker who is really cheap, maybe Josh King could be a decent option for you. That's something to think about. But I've talked about this in my wildcard videos as well. I would rather go for a Caicedo, for example, and Reinders. I think those two would be very important at that sort of price point, and they're just a little bit above the threshold you're talking about. So before I go back to your questions, let me provide some different aspects of the game in terms of FDR, predicted points, and then showing you different graphics, because some people have been asking about scoreline predictions, for example, and that is definitely worth referring to, and it can answer some questions in turn that you may have put in the live chat already. So let's kick things off with the FDR, and Nottingham Forest are top up until Game Week 11. Spurs, Chelsea, Man City and Everton are in the top 5. The likes of Leeds, by the way, are 8th, so things do change every single week. They go from 1st to 8th and things like that. Wolves are now 10th in mid-table. Those near the bottom are Liverpool, Fulham, Burnley, Bournemouth and Manchester United in terms of the FDR. With predicted points this week, Erling Haaland is top. He is now back to over 8 predicted points. Mohamed Salah is 2nd. Semenyo, O'Reilly and Foden are in the top 5. Watkins, Joao Pedro, Bruno Fernandes, Reinders and Gvardiol complete the top 10, which is dominated by Man City players. The only one I disagree with is O'Reilly. I think he's a quality player, by the way, but for him to be the 4th highest ranked player this week, I mean, if he scores and gets a clean sheet, fair play to Fantasy Football Hub, but I don't think that'll be the case. These are some of the transfers I discussed in my poll just before I published my team selection, and the wildcard option did gain 31% of the vote, but the top option is what I ended up doing, selling Salah and Watkins to Bruno Fernandes and Erling Haaland for a -4 hit. The alternative transfers there were Salah and Wood to Caicedo and Haaland, and then doing the exact same transfers out to buy Foden instead of Caicedo, which I was very tempted by the way, to get Foden as a short-term punt. But in the end, I've gone for this option, and if Watkins scores this week and Wood is benched and stuff like that, I might end up regretting it. It would be the story of my FPL season so far. There isn't too much I can do there. The transfers have already been made. In terms of this question I put out very recently, who would you bench in Game Week 6? Chris Wood is the top option with 51% of the votes, but Gakpo is currently sitting just outside my starting 11, and Reinders is not really being voted by you, and I understand that, facing Burnley at home. With predicted price changes, the likes of Isak, Van der Ven, Cucurella, it is Caicedo. Jesus, my eyesight is terrible. Also Gay, Gabriel, Haaland, Isidore, Bruno Fernandes, they could all rise in price. Maybe some of these won't happen. That's all I'm going to say. But this website is very useful and also very reliable when it comes to predicted price changes. In terms of price falls, they expect the likes of Mateta, Cucurella, Agbadu, Jorginho Rota, Welbeck, Jacob Murphy, Harry Wilson, and a few others there to drop in price. Sells is another one. Also Anderson from Forest. But yeah, if you want the website, it's livefpl.net. And another website I'd recommend is fpl.team, which I've talked about so many times across my videos. So use that link I just provided in the live chat, and that could be very useful when it comes to predicting these price changes. Next up is a stats comparison, and it's not Haaland versus Salah this time, but Foden against Bruno Fernandes. And as a short-term punt, I think Foden is the one, facing Burnley at home and Brentford away. That start in midweek is a slight concern though, and Fernandes had that full break in midweek, and he's now ready against Brentford away in the early kickoff. Will the Gandhi curse hit me again, like it kind of did last week with Salah as my captain? But as a long-term option, Bruno Fernandes is still the clear victor for me. All the stats, the minutes are all going to be in his favour. He's on penalties as well. But if you want someone onto a Game Week 8 wildcard, I think Foden might be the one actually, and I could regret not going in that direction and keeping Ollie Watkins for another couple of weeks and selling Chris Wood instead. We'll all see how it pans out, and if you know me by now, especially this season, yes, expect the worst when it comes to those 50-50 calls. Now, fpl.team is the other website I referred to just now, and this is what I've kind of gone for on the wild card. I've got nothing left in the bank now, so Donnarumma as my main goalkeeper. Dubravka or Darlow can be on the bench. Van der Ven, Senesi and Virgil van Dijk in that defensive line. You could argue there's a lot of money invested in this position, but the way I see it, there's a 4 million option in Mukiele. This could also be Alderete, the Paraguayan centre-back from Sunderland, or the likes of Rodon and Goodmanson. So take your pick there. You've also got 2 mid-price defenders in Van der Ven and Senesi, at around 4.8 million. Van Dijk and Gabriel are premiums. Then you've got a nice structure in the midfield. You've got Reinders and Caicedo, who are quite cheap. Indai is a little bit more expensive, but still accessible at 6.5 million. Then you've got Semenyo and Bruno Fernandes with Gyökeres, Haaland and Joao Pedro up front. So I think that is a stacked squad. You've got great fixtures coming up for a lot of these players. DEFCON potential in many cases. Penalty takers, you name it. I do like this wildcard squad, and I might do something similar in a couple of weeks' time, but I don't see a massive gain over my own team. We'll see how that ages, of course, like a fine wine or milk. Hopefully it's not the latter. And FPL Challenge is something I'll refer to after the deadline has passed. I've currently gone for Vicario, Tarkowski, Semenyo, Salah, Haaland, and Joao Pedro. And I had one player who was aged 23 or under to take advantage of the challenge this week, which is called Young Guns. But guess what? Joao Pedro turned 24 yesterday, as pointed out by a viewer of mine. So I need to change things up a little bit here and maybe add some more younger players into this setup. Obviously, Cole Palmer would have been one of them, I believe. He is, well, I need to check his age again, 23 or 24. But yeah, this is something I need to go back to the drawing board if I really want to take advantage of the double points on offer for players aged 23 or under in FPL Challenge. Let's now go to my team selection graphics. This will give you the full picture of, how I did in Game Week 5. And to be honest, I'd rather not provide commentary. It was all done in my team selection. And the less said about this game week, the better. Yeah, starting Sanchez over Dubravka was an absolute disaster. A 7-point swing. And I also had bench points with Reinders getting an assist and DEFCON against Arsenal. And just by starting those two players, I would have had a green arrow. But it was the worst week of the season so far, because Game Week 3 was also terrible, and I don't want to tempt my fate, but it has been an awful start to the campaign, and I think the other weeks were okay, but those 2 weeks really killed me. These are the confirmed transfers which I made last Saturday, I believe, or last Sunday. Fernandes to Salah and Watkins to Erling Haaland, and yes, Ollie Watkins has dropped in price to 8.7 million, and Chris Wood, I believe, has also gone down to 7.5 overnight. So Robert Sanchez is in goal for me. He now costs 4.9 million in FPL. My defensive line comprises of the rotation risk Pedro Porro, Konsa and Gabriel. I've got Fernandes, Reinders, Semenyo and Indai in that midfield with Joao Pedro, Haaland and Chris Wood up front. On my bench, I've got Cody Gakpo, and that could be slightly concerning. I've also got Lacroix and the suspended Reinildo Mandava. The same goes for Dubravka. I think Sanchez will start against Brighton, but it isn't a guarantee, and I still think Chelsea will concede anyway. When it comes to the captaincy, it is on Erling Haaland, and it's the triple captaincy chip activated in Game Week 6, which I talked about for several weeks now. I could wildcard as well. That's a very small chance, though, at this point. And even with Borro, if we get news before the deadline that he's benched and stuff like that, I could just start Lacroix instead, and it's not the end of the world, to be fair. So I think my squad is fairly decent this week on paper. We'll see if it finally performs to the level I think it should be at. But the wildcard in a couple of weeks' time, maybe around Game Week 8, could be very useful. And the last thing to show you in this segment is the expected points, and some of them I referred to earlier using the website Fantasy Football Hub. Haaland is top of any player with 8.4 now. The yellow flag has been removed as well, and there have been a few alterations like Reinders to 5.5, Indai's gone down a little bit as well to 4.9, but the rest is fairly similar to what I talked about in my team selection. I think Chris Wood is another player who went down quite significantly to 5.2, but if he starts, I'm very confident he can haul against Sunderland, but he's a sell very soon, and Victor Gyökeres will be the prime candidate to replace him. So someone asked me about the scoreline predictions. Well, here you go, and I have changed the Arsenal scoreline from 1-0 Newcastle to 1-0 Arsenal. We'll see how that turns out. Brentford 1, Man United 1, Chelsea 3, Brighton 2. I've gone for a 1-1 draw between Crystal Palace and Liverpool. Leeds 0, Bournemouth 1, Man City 3, Burnley 0, Nottingham Forest 2, Sunderland 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Wolves 0, Aston Villa 1, Fulham 0. Of course, the Newcastle Arsenal game I've changed a little bit, and Everton 2, West Ham 1. Let me also show you some other graphics I referred to throughout my videos, so always keep your eyes peeled for these different pieces of content and elements of the analysis. So with a team weakness for Wolves, they do concede a lot of chances in the centre, but also from the right-hand side. And I think one main beneficiary from this will be the template pick of Mohamed Kudus, who costs 6.6 million now, I believe, soon to be 6.7. And you can see the heat map also aligning with the chances conceded by Wolves In terms of the clean sheet odds, they haven't really changed over the last couple of days. Man City are top with a 54% probability of keeping a clean sheet. Spurs are second. Everton, Forest, Aston Villa and Arsenal complete the top 6. And Burnley are last, facing Manchester City away. They have lost the last 10 games against the Citizens, and some of them have been by some massive scorelines. With the captaincy, I've also made one big change, and that's Richarlison entering the top 10, and he's in 6th place. Ndiaye is still 10th. Bruno Fernandes, Kudus, Reinders, Joao Pedro, Foden are all up there, and the podium consists of Semenyo, Salah, and Erling Haaland. With that yellow flag removed, I'm even more bullish about him. I never had any doubts about him starting against Burnley. Hopefully I haven't jinxed it somehow, but yeah, I think a brace or hat-trick is certainly possible, and that is needed, I think, with a triple captaincy to boost me up the ranks and get back to a relatively decent position, and then I can build upon that after the international break. So after this, I think it's probably worth going to the lineups very quickly and then showing you some possible changes. So with Arsenal, it could be Marino over Odegaard, but assuming that the Norwegian is fit enough, I think he could start. And this is Arsenal's best 11 right now, with Raya in goal, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Calafiori, Zubimendi, Odegaard and Declan Rice, Saka, Eze and Victor Gyökeres. With Aston Villa, Emi Martinez is flagged, but assuming he's fit enough, I think he'll start. And we could see Pau Torres start over Tyrone Mings. That is a possibility to really help Villa with their build-up play. Luka Dean versus Maatsen is always a headache. Konsa and Cash will start. Kamara and McGinn in the midfield. Elliott and Buendia on the wings. Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins up front. Now, Sancho could also get the nod on the left-hand side, but I think Buendia might be preferred this weekend. With Bournemouth, one of my biggest dilemmas was actually in their defence. Will it be Diakite or the other centre-back who has been filling in for the last couple of weeks? I think Diakite will come back in. My main concern actually is Hill against Jimenez, and I've gone for Hill for the height against Leeds United. Petrovic is in goal. Senesi and Truffert completes that back four. Scott and Adams in the midfield. Semenyo, Brooks, Tavernier and Evanescence up front. I think Kluivert will be on the bench. With Brentford, if they persist with this 5-3-2 formation, they will go for this sort of lineup with Kelleher, Coyote, Vandenberg, Collins, Pinnock, Lewis Potter, Yarmoliuk, Henderson, Damsgaard, Igor Thiago, and Kevin Schade. With Brighton, I've gone for Verbruggen, Veltman, Van Heck, Dunk, Kadioglu, Beleba, Ayari, Minter, Mitoma, and Gomez in a central attacking midfield position, which, to be fair, he hasn't really played much throughout his career, and Jorginho Rota, but it could be more of a free roll for Gomez, and he predominantly plays on the right-hand side. Minter was a bit of a doubt over the last couple of days, but Hurstler said he has trained and he should be fine. So I think Minter will get the nod against Chelsea. He was very impressive against Tottenham Hotspur and obviously felt something during that match. With Burnley, they should go for a back five again, with Dubravka in goal, Walker, Lauren, Esteve, Ekdal and Hartman, Chiwana, Cullen, Florentino Luis, and Jadon Anthony, who went up in price overnight to 5.6 million, and Lau Foster should complete that starting 11. With Chelsea, I've made a few changes. Robert Sanchez in goal, James, Achimpong, who is currently yellow flagged of illness, but he has been training over the last couple of days, Chalobah, Cucurella, Andre Santos, Caicedo, Esteval and Neto on the wings, Enzo Fernandez and Joao Pedro, but as discussed yesterday, Chelsea could also play Neto as a striker and also have Esteval as an attacking midfielder. So they have a few options there. And Hato, who is a left-back and centre-back by trade, he can start alongside Chalobah in central defence. It all depends on Achimpong's fitness as well, but Hato has been preferred at left-back. With Crystal Palace, I made one change, and that's Yeremy Pino in for Kamada. With Henderson in goal, Richards, Lacroix, Gay, Wharton, Hughes, Munoz and Mitchell, Sarr, Yeremy Pino and Mateta. This is the team I've done best in terms of predictions, but that could obviously change very soon. The next team is Everton, and I've gone for the same lineup as yesterday. Pickford, O'Brien, Tarkowski, Keane, Mikalenko, Idrissa Gana Gueye and Ghana, Ndiaye and Grealish on the wings, and of course Grealish has gone up in price to 6.9 million. And Dewsbury Hall just behind Beto in that front line. With Fulham, I've gone for Leno, Tete, Anderson, Bassi, Sessegnon, Sandenberg, Lukic. Harry Wilson will go down to 5.2 million very soon, but that hasn't happened just yet. Iwobi, Josh King, and Maniz. So bear that in mind with some prices. That is based on some prediction models like livefpl.net, and some of these price changes haven't happened yet. With Leeds United, Darlow, Bogle, Rodon, Strauch, and Goodmanson, Ampadu, Longstaff, and Stack, Aronson, Okafor, and Calvert-Lewin. Liverpool will likely have Alisson in goal, and many of their predicted lineups have Bradley at right back, Kanate, Van Dijk, Kerkez, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Salah, Gakpo. I've gone for Szoboszlai now and Isak up front, but ultimately Liverpool can still play things a little bit differently. They can have Wirtz starting over Szoboszlai. They can have the Hungarian playing over McAllister. They could even play Szoboszlai as a right back. Maybe even go for two, kind of attacking midfielders here in Florian Wirtz and Isak's on the bench, making an impact from, a brief cameo. There are so many different ways Liverpool can go about it, but I think Isak will start and get 60 to 70 minutes to build up his fitness and momentum, and Ekitike could get the nod against Galatasaray in the Champions League in midweek. But I think Conor Bradley will start right back and Isak will be the number 9. With Man City, Donnarumma in goal, Matheus Nunes, Ruben Dias, Gavardio, O'Reilly, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Reinders, Foden, Doku, and Erling Haaland. And on the other side of Manchester, Bayern in goal, and I've corrected some of the prices from yesterday. So De Ligt costs 5 million, Maguire is 4.4, and I've gone for Mbeumo in his more natural position. Diogo Dalot is available, so Mazraoui is ruled out until after the international break, and Amad Diallo will be unavailable due to personal reasons. So I've gone for this setup for United with Shaw, Maguire, De Ligt, Fernandes, Ugarte, Dalot, Dorgu, Mbeumo, Cunha, and Sesko. We're now approaching the end of the lineup section. Pope in goal and a 3-5-2 against Arsenal with Chow, Botman and Byrne, Trippier and Livramento as the wing-backs, Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali and Joelinton in the midfield, Waldemada and Gordon, the evil twins up front. With Nottingham Forest, Sells in goal, Williams, Milenkovic, Morato, Sinchenko and Sangare should replace the injured Douglas Luiz, Anderson, Bakwa, Ndoye, Gibbs-White, and Chris Wood. That is the hope there, at least from my perspective. With Sunderland, I talked about the possibility of Mukiele playing as a right back and then Ballard partnering Alderete in central defence, but many Sunderland fans believe this will be the case, with Masuaku providing a like-for-like swap for the suspended Reinildo Mandava. So it'll be Masuaku, Alderete, Mukiele and Hume just in front of Roofs, Sadiki, Rigg and Xhaka, Talbi, Lefay and Isidore. With Tottenham Hotspur, I've had a few doubts about their lineup, but I think they'll go for something a bit more offensive. This could essentially be a 4-2-3-1 formation with Xavi Simons in the 10, Vicario in goal. I've gone for Pedro Porro, and I think the expectation here is that he's benched against Bodo Glimt in the Champions League, but don't be surprised to see Spence at the right back. I hope that's not the case today, but it's a real possibility with the Spaniard playing the full 90 against Doncaster. Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie, Joao Paulinho, Bergvall and Xavi Simons. Kudus and Richarlison will start. Then it's about Brennan Johnson versus Odebear. Do they go for another midfielder like Pape Sarr or maybe someone else like Bentancur? That is all going to be a big headache for Tottenham. With West Ham, I've gone for Areola, Walker-Peters, Mavropanos, Kilman, Diouf, Magassa, Ward-Prowse, Bowen, Matheus Fernandes, Paqueta, and Callum Wilson. The final team is the one I've done the worst in terms of predictions. They might stick with a back four now, which they did against Everton, and that is a huge shift in Vitor Pereira's philosophy and tactics. Johnston could be in goal. He was really impressive against Everton in that 2-0 win, and Jose Sarr has been terrible this season. It could be Santiago Bueno, Krejci and Totti Gomez in that defensive line. Also Hugo Bueno and Chichauna as the wing-backs. Joao Gomez and Andre in the midfield. Menetzi, Hwang Hee-chan and Tolu up front, but many predicted lineups have Strand Larsen leading the line. He's not ready to play 90 minutes, as Vitor Pereira said yesterday, but he could get the nod and be subbed off at around 60 to 70 minutes. So that concludes an extensive coverage of the lineups, and I also talked about many different factors like the FDR, my team selection, also my predicted scorelines and stuff. But this is my current team for FPL after taking a -4 hit. Erling Haaland is my triple captain. And let's get back to your questions. Thank you to those that have been tuning in from the beginning. It is massively appreciated. And thank you to Awali for also moderating the chat. Baraf says, yo Dylan, start Wood or Caicedo. I still think Chris Wood has a far higher ceiling. Despite the fact he's a riskier pick, I would start Chris Wood this week. I think he'll start. Obviously, if I felt differently, then I would just say go for Caicedo and bank those 4 points. But I'd probably go for Chris Wood instead. Yeah, I agree with that, Ahmad, but a lot of Liverpool fans I've seen anyway have been very critical of Gakpo's performances. If there are any Liverpool fans in the chat, let me know what you think. Bench Gakpo or Nico Williams? It's a bit similar to the Chris Wood Caicedo debate. You could argue that Williams' floor is higher, so he can kind of guarantee almost a 6-pointer as opposed to Gakpo, but yeah, the Dutchman's ceiling will be far higher. I would go for Gakpo out of the two this week. I tend to favour attackers in these scenarios. Saliba or Gabriel? I prefer Gabriel still. He'll score more goals, get more bonus points as a result. And in terms of DEFCON, it's close, but Saliba might have the edge there, to be fair. More wildcard tinkering, Gabriel Mukiele or Calafiori and Richard/Anderson. I think long-term it'd be Gabriel Mukiele. Yeah. I do like Richards and Anderson, but not enough to go for Calafiori, who I like a lot, by the way, but he's too injury-prone. I've been saying that for a while. I hope I'm kind of reverse jinxing it and he never gets injured again, but during his Arsenal career, he's just been injured far too often. Mario says, Mings or Van der Ven for the next 2 game weeks? It would be Van der Ven. I think 1 clean sheet for Tottenham is definitely possible against Wolves and Leeds. It's more likely than Mings, for example, despite the fact that Villa play against Burnley at home very soon. And I talked about the possibility in my lineup section of Pau Torres starting over Mings. I'm not saying it's a certainty, but it's something worth bearing in mind. He played very well midweek, Pau Torres. Hi, Dylan. Play 1 from Gakpo, Richards or Mateta. This might surprise you, but I'm going to go for Mateta here. I'm going for a 1-1 draw between Palace and Liverpool, and Mateta has a great chance of scoring. I think he would be the one for me. Caicedo is also 23 years old. Yeah? Yeah, he's still very young. We forget that. He's a very... Well, he's a quality defensive midfielder. He's got a lot of potential. So, yeah, that's a great shout. If he gives you 4 points, double that, you get 8 points. Yeah, that is definitely a very good shout on the FPL challenge front. Yeah, best mid under 5.3. As covered earlier, it's Dewsbury Hall, especially this week. No worries, Roy. And, yeah, welcome to the club. Obviously, Paredes was the one gifting memberships. He's the one to thank for that. And thank you for tuning in. Mistakenly took a -20. Was trying my wildcard team. Well, you might as well wildcard at this point, Baraf, because you will then revoke all those hits. You will not lose any points. Jaron says Nunes or Bernardo Silva would be just for this game week. It's probably Mateus Nunes, but he's a very risky pick. He's not guaranteed to start. I think he will get the nod, but a lot of predicted lineups I've seen have Rico Lewis at right back. Now, midweek against Huddersfield, Mateus Nunes played as the right back. He played the full 90. But Lewis also started in a more holding midfield position where Rodri typically plays in that 4-1-4-1 formation. Very difficult one. I just think Mateus Nunes, if he starts, you can get a clean sheet out of him. Maybe a bonus point, but yeah, it's a tough one. I think Bernardo might actually be the safer pick, looking at it. Yeah, good question. My problem is that if you want a City player that isn't Haaland, I'd recommend Foden. Even Doku would be a preference over Bernardo and Mateus Nunes. Donnarumma in goal, best way of covering City defensively, followed by Gvardiol. Yeah, Bernardo Silva can be a flat-track bully. I actually owned him when he scored 4 goals against Watford in Sky Sports Fantasy a couple of years ago and captained him. I'm going to go for Bernardo Silva just because I've got more concerns about Mateus Nunes starting. I think he will, but it's not a guarantee in my eyes. Thank you, Safir, and good to see you as always. But yeah, these questions have been covered. Let me see if there are any others from members that I haven't gone through. Obviously, I went through a lot of different screens earlier. So yeah, Paredes, I've got Borja in my lineup. It's worth mentioning that, but some Tottenham fans and also sources have Borja on the bench. As I mentioned before, he played 90 minutes in midweek against Doncaster. And you've got Bodo Glimt in a couple of days' time. You've also got this game against Wolves. This is a nice opportunity for Borja to get a rare rest under Thomas Frank. So I think he will be benched in one of the next 2 games. In my opinion, he'll start tonight and be benched in the Champions League. That is also my hope. But yeah, I think Pedro Borja will have his minutes managed. And Thomas Frank has rotated a lot with Tottenham Hotspur so far. Richard says, wildcard dilemma, Pope and Gvardiol or Donnarumma and Newcastle defender. Yeah, interesting one. They're all viable. And Pope has been very underrated actually this season. The most clean sheets of any goalkeeper. Very, very close one. Gvardiol can also score DEFCON, which I do like. Livramento has been very consistent from an FPL perspective. I'm going to say Donnarumma and Livramento, but it's very close. I don't think there's much in it. You can't bench Fernandes over Caicedo, says Silly Bear. Yeah, Caicedo will offer you kind of like a guarantee of 4 or 5 points, essentially, but Bruno Fernandes has a far higher ceiling. If he scores a goal, you could be looking at 10 points very comfortably. So I do agree with Silly Bear. Benching Fernandes isn't really ideal. Yep, Rewan, it's in the title of the YouTube video. You can also see it on screen, and I've discussed it throughout this podcast and across the week. Erling Haaland is my triple captain. I've always said it, in Gameweek 6, if I don't wildcard, I'll be triple captaining Erling Haaland. Paredes says, my team value is at an all-time low. Never had this many issues before. Hopefully we can work out for the next few weeks, but it means I need some great pinpointing picks out of the curve. Yes, but look, there's not... I wouldn't look too much into the rank and also the team value at this point. I know you want to be off to the best possible start, and that gives you the foundations for a great season, but it's still very early days, to be quite honest with you. So, yeah, it's going to be important to get the next few transfers right, but it's not the be-all and end-all. It's still very early in the season. Once we kind of know more about the best teams and fixtures and stuff like that, we can make more informed decisions and improve our teams to the best possible way, really. Arthur Nice says, yeah, Dylan, I played my wild card. Ryan, Donnarumma and Haaland in. Having Ryan and Donnarumma is certainly different. I don't think it's worth investing that much money on your goalkeepers because you have to bench them every week, and sometimes Arsenal can get a clean sheet against a very, good team on paper, and you've got bench points there from your backup, so to speak. All the best for the weekend, Jack and Ndai. So you've definitely gone a bit different with certain picks. Double Everton attack as well. That looks very promising today, or on Monday against West Ham. So hopefully it goes well for you. Awali, I can't speak for everyone, but I prefer the triple captain in Game Week 6 and then wildcarding in Game Week 8 or 13. It all depends on your setup. You can pick Gavardio for challenge. Yeah, for some reason or somehow, Gavardio is 23, so that is a very good shout. I'm probably going to consider him, actually. He should start against Burnley. Bruno or Reinders, that is a very close one. I'd probably go for Reinders, just about. They're both in my top 10 captaincy list. Not much separates them. I think Reinders is 6th and Fernandes is 9th. I'm going to go for Reinders. Start Gabriel or Cucurella. Close one. I'm going to go for Gabriel. Slightly better chance of a clean sheet, in my opinion. Best defenders under 4.9. Oh yeah, Senesi and Van de Ven would be two of the standouts. I still like Gay and Richards. I think Senesi's the best one. Safair says, need some differentials against this wildcard. Okay, differentials. Yeah, I was going to say Watkins up front, but I don't want you going through that sort of pain. Richarlison as a short-term punt over Gyökeres and then switching to the Swedish striker in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe in Game Week 7 or 8, but it would mean booking in a transfer. That's the only downside. Raya Dubravka looks fine. Maybe it could be Donnarumma, and then you cover City defensively with Gavardio. That's a different way of going about the Ryan Gabriel sort of combo. I mean, ultimately, you're doubling up on Arsenal defensively. Maybe you want that, but yeah, you might be surprised. Not that many people will be doubling up on the Arsenal defense, even with Ryan Gabriel. Richards is fine. He's got low ownership in general. Tarkowski's decent. I like Michael Keane short term, but Branthwaite is knocking on the door, and very soon he'll be in that lineup. So I think Tarkowski is the way to go. I'd probably move away from Joachim Andersen. I'm not a big fan of him, actually. You could go to a 4 million defender there, Safair, and then use the extra funds to upgrade somebody else. But I have to be honest with you, what you've kind of built with that wildcard team is essentially what I discussed in my wildcard podcast a couple of days ago. I do like the look of it, but I would change Anderson personally. And if you want to go a bit different, I think Richarlison. Thank you, Rewan. Well done, Dylan. I always enjoy your streams. I have Konsa and Mings, but I think Mings did better against Sunderland. Yeah, no, Mings played very well against Sunderland. He also made more defensive contributions, but Konsa's been very nailed on in that Villa side, either as a right back or in central defence. I think it's between Pau Torres and Mings for that starting spot personally. And a lot of Villa fans feel the same way. Now, I did have Mings in my lineup yesterday, and it's still a possibility he starts again, but if Villa want to improve in terms of on the ball, the passes between the lines, and helping, give that extra edge to then have more creativity, I think having Pau Torres could actually help them a lot in terms of their build-up play. So that's why I've got him in my final predicted lineup. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I don't think Konsa will be benched. Yeah, Gakpo will start in my opinion. I did talk about the possibility of Liverpool doing something a bit different though, with Florian Wirtz starting and even having Isak on the bench. But you saw my lineup earlier. I've got Wirtz currently on the bench, Szoboszlai playing in the attacking midfield role with McAllister and Gravenberch in the midfield and Bradley as the right back. Munoz to Gavardio for a -4, not for me. I wouldn't do that. No worries, Baraf. Okay, so I'm guessing that's about the wildcard thing, right? With the chip reversing all the hits you've taken. This is actually covered in my chip strategy guide and how to play FPL. Or the key changes to FPL, actually, I believe. But yeah, it was definitely covered in my chip strategy guide. I break down every single chip in detail. I might actually go for the slides very briefly, not provide commentary because a lot of the information's on screen and I've done it already in a separate video, but that could help a few people watching as well. But no worries, Baraf, and good luck for the rest of the season. If you haven't already, drop a like on this video. Let's try to get it to 200 plus by the end of the stream. And let's keep on pushing towards new goals like 37 subscribers. Let me know your preference in terms of a reaction stream. Do you want to see it tonight during the Tottenham Wolves game? Or do you want to see it tomorrow? I'll be honest, at the moment, I think the preference is to do it tomorrow and then record UCL fantasy videos, at least one today, because my plan is to do a Limitless and Wildcard podcast for the Champions League. My team selection will be published on Monday, and that'll probably be recorded on Monday morning to have all the information from the weekend's action. And then on Tuesday, of course, I'll be going live for UCL Fantasy in yet another hectic deadline stream where I could be activating either the Limitless or the Wildcard. Start Tarkowski or Anderson? Tarkowski. Well, I've never been called that before, but thank you, Sherlock. Reinders or Zubimendi to start? Definitely Reinders. And I like Zubimendi a lot as a player, but after his brace against Forest, I said in my transfer tips video, he is a skip. He's not going to score braces very often, and in terms of DEFCON, he won't get that on a consistent basis. Reinders has the better fixture. He's got more chance of scoring, and I think he'll start against Burnley, so it's going to be Reinders for me. Sam says bench 1, Borro, Milenkovic, Van Dijk, or Gabriel. Very close one. It's between Milenkovic and Gabriel, and as mentioned before, there is a chance that Porro, as people like to say, is going to be benched. I would bench... I'm going to bench Milenkovic, actually. Because I did go for 1-0 Arsenal in my final prediction, and I really hope I'm right there. Yeah, I'm going to bench Milenkovic, which seems crazy. Chris El Famoso says, morning Dylan, Bruno or Foden? Well, I've gone for Bruno Fernandes personally. I think for those wildcarding in 8, which I'm probably going to do, it does make more sense to go for Foden as a short-term punt. It really does, but longer term, Fernandes all day long. I actually talked about both of their stats. I'm not sure how long ago exactly now, probably 15 minutes ago or something like that. So if you rewind the stream, you can see me going through all the graphics, and there is a brief segment where I compare the stats of both of those players, so that could really help you. I'll refer to it one more time probably until the end of the deadline stream. Thank you, Sherlock. I'll call you Sherlock Holmes. Great name. I went for Mateta instead of Gyökeres in my wild card. Wanted to go differential. Yeah, Mateta can still do well. The fixtures aren't great, though. I think Gyökeres' ceiling will be higher, but he's also 1.4 million more expensive. I do like Mateta, though, against Liverpool and all these other games coming up. He did score against them in the Q&A Shield final as well. Yeah, everyone, I get that. It's just normally, you know, on the Saturday night, it's more popular. People like to tune in for that. But because the game is at 8 p.m., yeah, I think it might just be done tomorrow. And also, it gives me enough time to record a UCL Fantasy podcast tonight. Silly Bear says, play Senesi or Van der Ven. I'd go for Van der Ven this week. I've gone for a 1-0 win for Bournemouth and 2-0 victory for Tottenham, but I think in terms of clean sheet odds, you saw it earlier as well, Spurs are second, only behind Man City. Anderson or Watkins in the 11, it would still be Watkins. I think he's going to score. I've sold him. I'm absolutely convinced he's going to score. I'm just saying that now. Great record against Fulham as well, so it's backed up by stats. Only one blank against them in home matches. It would be Salah over Isak. I wouldn't recommend Isak right now, Chris. Now, could Isak score the winner today? Absolutely. I just don't think his minutes are secure, and Salah's ceiling is far higher. Then again, he's also far more expensive than Alexander Isak. Bench Watkins or Rodgers? It would be Rodgers. I would start Ollie Watkins. Would or Kudus for this game week? It would be Kudus as well, yeah. Thank you, Ahmad, for the super chat. Took a -4 to bring in Haaland, Indai, Kudus in place of Salah, Mateta, Johnson. Yeah, watch Johnson and Mateta get returns now. So I'm a bit conflicted about Spurs' 11. Not just the Borro situation, but also their left wing spot. Could they even go for a 4-2-3-1? You know, start Xavi Simons in the 10. Will he start in the, left-hand side? And then could it be Odobert or Johnson in that position? But, yeah, I think Johnson will start, actually. He should get the nod in one of the next 2 games against Bodo Glimt in midweek or today. So that's going to be interesting. Look, I'm not trying to put you off because you made some good transfers, but I would not be surprised to see Mateta and Johnson score this weekend. And I looked at these fixtures coming up for Spurs, including Brighton last week, and I thought Johnson can score in these games if he gets the minutes. Yeah, thank you, Awale. You are correct. We have hit our super chat goal. Thanks to the likes of Ahmad and all the other super chatters. Thank you very much. Going Triple Captain 6. My team is not well suited for 7. Thoughts about using my free hit 7 before wildcard in 8? Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. It is team dependent. I've said this before with the free hit and bench boost in particular. So there's not like an exact formula, like a Krabby Patty formula in SpongeBob where, oh yeah, this is the exact week you need to use a free hit or bench boost and you'll get the most points. There's never a guarantee. I think with the wildcard and triple captain, I'm kind of more set in terms of when to use them. So my current plan is triple captain 6, wildcard in 8. But yeah, I think a 3 and 7 could be quite underrated. I talked about 11 as a possibility, but in your situation, it might be better to do it next week, actually, just before the international break. Ola, should I go for Enzo or start Gyökeres? I prefer Enzo Fernandez. I've also gone for a 3-2 Chelsea win, whilst with Arsenal, I've just about switched it to a 1-0 victory. And by the way, my lineups video yesterday, a lot of people were taking issue of my Newcastle prediction originally of them winning, and it's just a prediction. Calm down. I mean, I hope to jinx it, from that perspective. But yeah, I think Enzo Fernandez has the highest ceiling. Bench Gyökeres or Kudus? I'd bench Gyökeres this week. Start 2, Timber, Gabriel, Van der Ven. Gabriel and Van der Ven. I'd bench Timber. Start Anderson or Konsa, playing Watkins as well. Is that Joachim Anderson? If so, I'd still go for Konsa. Fulham have a poor record against Villa, and I'm backing the Villains to win again. When I say again, by the way, because they beat Bologna 1-0 in midweek. Karen says Raya and Van der Ven or Pope and Gvardiol. Already have Gabriel. Yeah, good question. I like both duos. It would be Raya and Van der Ven. Rangers or Foden? Long term, it's Rangers. That's why in my wildcard video, in my main draft, I had Rangers in there. I think Foden is a nice short-term punt, but his minutes will be more of an issue moving forwards. Gyökeres or Richarlison? I'd go for Richarlison up until game week 7 or 8, basically, and then switch to Gyökeres. That is my preference there. Kieran says, would you sell Sarr and die on a bench boost or save the transfer? I'd save the transfer. Ismaila Sarr should be back this weekend. I think he'll start. And he's a decent differential, actually. I'd keep Ismaila Sarr at this point. FPL Glory says, hey Dylan, I did 3 transfers. Salah, Watkins, Sanchez out for Haaland, Semenyo, Donnarumma. I'm using my triple captain on Haaland. Yeah, looks good overall. Donnarumma is an upgrade on Sanchez. You're bringing in Haaland and Semenyo, 2 of the best options in the game. So overall, I like it. Could Salah, Watkins, Sanchez return? Absolutely. I think Watkins will score this weekend, despite the poor form. And Salah is always a brilliant choice, but you've made upgrades in every position, in my opinion. In essence, with Salah, you're upgrading with Haaland, more so than with Semenyo there. Would or Kudus for this game week? Yeah, as covered before, it would be Kudus. So yeah, I'm just going to go to the questions I haven't answered. Connor Shopify says, hello Dylan, just a quick question. I can only play 2 out of Joao Pedro, Cunha, Gyökeres and Gabriel. I'd definitely play Joao Pedro. After that, it becomes difficult, but I would take a punt on Cunha. Yep, I agree with you. I've probably benched the Arsenal players. With Arsenal, I'm quite conflicted. I think it'll be a 1-0 game. It's just either side. Will it be Arsenal or Newcastle? But I think the ceiling of Gyökeres and Gabriel this week will be lower than the other 2. But Joao Pedro has to start, in my opinion. Start Rodgers or Sarr? This is actually close. I'm going to go for Rodgers just about. His form has been terrible, though. Sandra says Porro, or Poro. Brennan Johnson, Fulkrug to Gravenberch, Joao Pedro, Senesi for a hit. Not sure about a hit for that. I think Borja will start for what it's worth. I just think there's a possibility he's benched. I'm hoping for the best there when it comes to starting him. But yeah, overall, the -4 hit makes sense, right? But Gravenberch, in FPL terms, is not as good as Reinders or Caicedo, in my opinion. I think both of them are better options. I'd recommend them instead. The other two look really good, but I wouldn't sell Borja to Senesi just yet. Start Munoz or Borja. I would start the Spaniard, Pedro Borja, in the hopes that he starts. There is a chance he's benched. It's worth mentioning that. I've said it all along, but I believe he will start, and I really hope he does from an FPL perspective. John Paul says, Morning, Dylan. Your thoughts on a free hit team of Donnarumma, Romero, Van de Ven, Keane, Gavardio, Fernandes, Ndai, Semenyo, Grealish, Richarlison, and Haaland captain? I like that a lot. It's quite similar to what I talked about in my free hit podcast on Thursday. Yeah, Richarlison is one that deserves more attention. I think he deserves to be in that starting 11. Really good team. Romero and Van de Ven, interesting. I did talk about Vicario and Romero, I believe, in one of those drafts. Donnarumma, best goalkeeper in isolation for this week. Keane, very good choice against West Ham, especially from set pieces. So yeah, I like the team a lot. You've gone for a back four as well. You're doubling up on Spurs and City defensively, which isn't a terrible idea. But I do prefer Foden or Reinders to cover City overall. So I would drop one of Donnarumma or Gavardio personally, and then go for a more attacking lineup. Wood or Gyökeres and Fernandes or Mbeumo for wildcard? Gyökeres and Fernandes. Yeah. Prince Izzy says, well done, Dylan. Please, who to start? Senesi, Gabriel, Gavardio, Van de Ven, Mukiele, Bruno, Semenyo, Reinders, and Dai stack. Haaland, Joao Pedro, Gyökeres / Richarlison. So if you can afford that sort of Richarlison pump for the next couple of weeks and then switch to Gyökeres, then I would recommend that. So I'd start Richarlison, Joao Pedro, Haaland. Yeah, in terms of the goalkeeper, I don't know who you got, but with your outfield players, I'd start Senesi, Gavardio, and Van de Ven. So that's the back three. Bruno, Semenyo, Reinders, and Ndai, and then all three forwards. So a 3-4-3 formation. Hopefully you got that. Haaland, JP, and Richarlison complete the lineup. Konsa or Senesi? Senesi. Hi Dylan, Borja or Saliba? I'd still go for Borja, but there is a chance he's benched. And by the way, why do I say that way? Because I speak Spanish, okay? That's why I pronounce the R's, okay? Yeah, thank you. Van Dijk, Tarkowski, and Gabriel at the back. I can play them every week. I like that. I'm not against that sort of strategy or team structure. I did talk about similar moves in my wildcard video and stuff like that, and some people take issue with investing that much money there. I get that, and it could make buying Salah again quite difficult, but you're going to get consistency from those three. Seeing so many people triple Captain Haaland, getting a feeling of a Foden brace. It's possible, you know, when a lot of people gravitate towards a certain thing, it might end up being another player like Foden who takes the limelight, but I think both of them will haul in the same game. I just think Haaland has a better chance. His form is incredible for club and country. He scored 5 goals for Norway a couple of weeks ago. Every single game, he looks like a threat. Against Arsenal, he goes through one-on-one. No one has a doubt in their mind he's going to score. And yeah, Haaland has a great record against Burnley. Foden has never scored against the Clarets. I think he's got 1 assist against them. But Haaland has got a hat-trick already in his career against them. But I need to double-check the stats for Foden, but that's what I saw a couple of days ago. Sam says, bench 1, Pedro, Milinkovic, Gabriel, or Van Dijk. Yeah, I think I covered this earlier, by the way. It's a close one, but I would bench Milinkovic right now. Shreya says, bench 2, Lacroix, Burn, Rogers, Mateta, Gakpo. I would bench Burn and Lacroix. I'd go for the attacking options there. Yeah, I'm not sure about the CR7 diaries. I'll have a look at that. What's it called? Football Fandom. Okay, I'll have a look after the stream. Anyways, by the way, that's what the chat says, not me. Gavardio, Tarkowski, Enzo, Palmer in the future. Keane, Stack, Haaland. C, Tarkowski, Enzo, Bowen, Palmer in the future. Yeah, good question. I like those players. Long term, I think the best ones are Gavardio, Tarkowski, and Enzo. So option A. Who is that? Is that Ndai? Not who is that? Negate. Oh, Mateta. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I would lean towards Dewsbury Hall, only just. Mateta could score against Liverpool, but I think his ceiling will be quite low, like 6-7 points. I mean, I'd take that all day long from Chris Wood, for example. But yeah, I think Dewsbury Hall has a higher ceiling against West Ham. Would you start Minter or Wood? Chris Wood. Yes, Pranav, for sure. Chris Wood will not play the 90 minutes, that's for sure. But I think he'll start and get 70. And hopefully by that stage, he's got a brace. That's really what I'm hoping for at this point. Start one of Munoz, Gay, or Goodmanson. I'd just go for Munoz and hope for the attacking potential to kick in. I think all of them concede, that's why. If I had to put it down to percentages, I think Leeds have a slightly better chance of a clean sheet than Crystal Palace, but not enough for me to advocate for Goodmanson. Alex says, have Grealish but want to sell him for Ndai. Nah, not for a -4. I'd keep Grealish for now. Alfred says, hey Dylan, I'm using my wild card. Keep, borrow, or sell. I'd sell him and go to Romero. Yeah, I think Romero, if you have the funds, is the best Spurs defender. Long term. I believe he made 14 defensive actions against Brighton. Now, that will also be opposition dependent, and Romero is the more aggressive centre-back, but he was excellent for ball recoveries in UCL Fantasy a couple of years ago for Atalanta, so I'm not surprised that he's doing fairly well in FPL this season. So, yeah, I would sell Border on the wildcard. -4 for others, then Rodgers and Sarr. Yes or no? Unless you're going for Semenyo or a player like that, it's difficult to see who is worth the -4 hit this week. I like Ndai, but you could just keep Rodgers or Sarr for now. And by the way, I said this before, I like Ismaila Sarr. You know, he's fit now. He might not start this weekend. I believe he will, by the way. But even if he doesn't, he's a good long-term option in that Palace attack. No worries, Sam. I was also thinking about benching Milenkovic. I did base it off my predictions. So I think Arsenal have a better chance of a clean sheet than Nottingham Forest. I've gone for a 2-1 Forest win and 1-0 Arsenal. Michael says, I went for Mateta instead of Gyökeres. Yeah, that's fine. As covered before, I do prefer Gyökeres, but there is a big difference in price. Let's go for a few different ones. I am very close to CR7. Just missed him, says Twisted Parky. Relax Gamer says, good morning, Dylan. Thoughts on my midfield? Semenyo, Bruno, Kudus, Gakpo, and Reinders. I like the look of it. I've got something very similar. Kudus is decent short term. I think in a couple of weeks he is sellable. And Gakpo could be dropped very soon for Liverpool. I think he'll start today, but not a guarantee, to be honest. The others are really good options. Semenyo, Bruno, and Reinders are excellent FPL assets long term. Just the Parky puts his team. What do I do with Tosin? Richards or someone, or sell Paqueta and upgrade Tosin and get Reinders next week. Oh, by the way, there is a super chat. I'm going to go to it very soon. I haven't missed it, so thank you very much. This question is a difficult one. You don't need to sell Tosin now necessarily. You've got Senesi, Van der Ven, and Van Dijk this week, which is absolutely fine for Game Week 6. I would probably make it a priority to get Reinders, not at the expense of Caicedo. But yeah, Paqueta to Reinders looks pretty good. Then you could sell Tosin to Richards or a different defender in a couple of weeks' time. I think that's what I would do, Twisted Parky. Okay, so the next super chat is by Yasser. Hopefully I haven't butchered that. Wildcard team. Raya, Dubravka, Van der Ven, Senesi, Calafiori, Anderson, Alderete, Reinders, Bruno, Xavi Simons, and Mbumo Foden. Haaland, JP Foster. Got 1.6 in the bank for a Saka transfer next game week. I can downgrade to Pope and upgrade defense. I like the team a lot. There's just a few issues I've got personally. So in terms of your 4 million defender, that's absolutely fine. It could be Mukiele, Goodmanson, Rodon. Alderete is perfectly reasonable, but I'm still not fully convinced about Calafiori and Anderson. If possible, I would upgrade Calafiori to Gabriel. I just think he's less prone to rotation. Calafiori is more injury prone as well. And Joachim Anderson won't get many clean sheets. He's decent for Defcon. So from that perspective, he's fine. But I prefer a Spurs defender, even long term. And look, it's not a terrible pick, Anderson. I'm not fully sold on that pick. I think he'll mainly get 2 and 3 points in FPL. In the midfield, Xavi Simons, short term, looks absolutely fine. I think Kudus might be slightly better for the next 2, though. If you're kind of looking at someone until your second wild card or the second half of the season, then Xavi Simons is the more exciting pick, and I do recommend him generally in that sort of term. But I just think for the next 2-3 weeks, if you want that Spurs midfielder, then you swap him out for someone else. I think Kudus might be slightly better. Mbeumo, Fernandes, I mean, you got both of them actually. Mbeumo and Bruno, I think one is enough personally. That would be my recommendation. But you do talk about that 1.6 in the bank for Saka. Ideally, it would be Mbeumo making way and not Fernandes or Foden. That would be my recommendation. Front line is fine. Obviously, you've got Foster as your third striker, something I haven't really seen too often. And he's been fairly underrated for Burnley. So overall, really good team. I've only got a few gripes of it, like double United midfield. Calafiori is still good, by the way. As long as he stays fit, he's a good FPL pick, but I would have some concerns about that. And with Joachim Andersen, I think there are better defenders elsewhere. But let me know your thoughts. I do like the Saka transfer in Game Week 7 or 8. That does put you ahead of the curve, actually. A lot of people wildcarding in a couple of weeks, like myself, potentially, will be going for Saka by that stage, but you could be on the train quite early. Baraf says Cucurella or Van Dijk. I'd go for Van Dijk. Paredes says, who's the second best Arsenal defensive asset, paired of Gabriel? Probably Saliba. Mosquera's been brilliant, but he's only going to start if Saliba's injured or they need to manage his minutes. I like Jurriën Timber and Calafiori, but you've got Ben White back in the squad. If he can stay fit, because he's been injured for the last year or so, basically, I think White can get a few starts in the Prem. Calafiori is the main left back, but you've got Hincapié. Once he's back from a small injury problem, I could see the Ecuadorian getting some starts there. And you've also got Lewis Skelly, who can play in that position, but Arteta said he's more of a midfielder. So, yeah, Calafiori is first choice. I just don't like his injury record. That's always in the back of my mind. I don't want to put people off because he has been brilliant. Probably Arsenal's best player so far this season, but yeah, I think Gabriel and Saliba are the best FPL defenders for Arsenal. Relax Eye Gamer says, thank you, my friend, and good luck. Likewise to you. We've got 47 minutes until the deadline. Kingston, I'm not sure why you're saying that. Isak is not injured. He started the game against Southampton. Ekitike came on at half-time. Ekitike is suspended now against Palace. The reason why people aren't buying Isak is because the Frenchman is only suspended for one game. So Isak will not be nailed on. Even in this game with no Ekitike, he's not going to play the full 90 unless Liverpool are chasing a game or something. But it looks like the plan is for Slot to play him for 60, 70 minutes. He said that yesterday in the press conference. He's still building up his fitness and he's basically in pre-season mode. So Alexander Isak is just a risky pick for that price tag. Gyökeres is a better option long-term at this moment in time. I would play Senesi over Cucurella there, Saliba. Yeah, Haaland is starting, Simon. No doubts about that. The yellow flag was removed. Guardiola said yesterday he is ready. By the way, thank you for reminding me, actually, because I did have some notes from the press conferences yesterday. So it might be worth going through the lineups one more time and then reading out the quotes that I've got here. So yeah, I'm going to do that and also show the FDR and stuff like that. People did ask me about Foden versus Fernandes, for example. So if you haven't rewinded, I'll go for it one more time. But like I said, you've always got the option to rewind, then go back live. That's something I recommend when watching my streams because I do provide a lot of the information throughout. Relax Gamer says, good morning, Dylan. Thoughts on my midfield? Yeah, I did cover this earlier. So yeah, hopefully you got the answer to that question, Relax Gamer. I was just scrolling up and seeing if I missed any member questions. Thank you, Wally. As he says, don't spam. That would be massively appreciated, and your questions will be answered. Yeah, Kyle, it is a bit early, I think. I mean, Isak will start today. I'm very convinced about that. I think Saka will also get the nod tomorrow, but the thing is with FPL, you also want to be early sometimes. That is, one of the main ways of getting ahead of the curve and then getting green arrows. I think Saka is the one I'd be more tempted by compared to Isak. Yeah, Ahmed, I am triple captaining Erling Haaland. That is locked in pretty much for me. Yeah, Udogie should start Preston. I think Udogie will start today and get benched against Bodo Glimt. And my expectation actually is for Borro to start tonight and to be benched against... Actually, to be fair, that is a good question because Udogie, if you do break it down actually, there is a good chance Borro is benched tonight if you really think about it. But I think Udogie will start alongside Borro and then Spence could start in a few days' time and then Udogie gets 45 minutes, for example, and Borro gets a little bit of a rest in the Champions League. But yeah, he will get benched at some stage. Do you prefer Donnarumma and Saliba or Raya and Gabriel on the wildcard? It's covered in my wildcard video, mate. I've gone for Raya. Well, actually, I went for Donnarumma and Gabriel, so it's a bit different to what you're talking about. They're all good options, to be fair. I don't really have a major preference. Probably Donnarumma and Saliba from those two duos because I like balancing out the defensive coverage, but it's all in my wildcard video. You can see that. Yeah, Gary, I agree. A lot of wildcards flying around, triple captaincy, so try to lock in your team as soon as possible. Wildcard or free transfers? I'd say free transfers, but it depends on the context of your team. Hi, Dylan, would you go Foden or Ndai on wildcard? I like Ndai a lot long term, but I would take a punt on Foden. I would, yeah. Ekatike replacement on a -4. I mean, apart from Joao Pedro and Erling Haaland, I don't see many strikers who are worth the -4 hit this week. It could be a case of benching him and starting a midfielder or defender instead, to be fair. Long term, I'd say Gyökeres is the replacement, but not a big fan of Gyökeres this week, actually. So Umar, very simple. For the next 2 weeks is Kudus. Longer term, as talked about in my wildcard video, Ndai is the better pick. So it all depends on the context of your team. If you're wildcarding in 8, go for Kudus. Otherwise, Ndai is the better and more consistent asset, in my opinion. He'll also score more goals. Hi, Dylan. On wildcard, Kudus, Petrovic, or Rangers Raya? I'd go for Raya and Rangers Mario. Already have Foden. Yeah, looks good. I like that. Yeah, Solanke, I believe, is still unavailable. So I'm going to go through those quotes now. I think I've got that update here. Yeah, I've actually got a quote from Thomas Frank. So let's go to the predicted lineups one more time. I'm only going to focus on the ones that I haven't, or sorry, the ones that I've got quotes on. So we'll start off with Arsenal. And Arteta said this about Odegaard's fitness. Martin will be training with us for the next 2 days, so hopefully he'll be available for the game. On Saka's fitness, he said, nothing to report there. He played the game we anticipated in the Carabao Cup. He played well and is training for the next 2 days. And there is no update on Nodi Madueke just yet. With Aston Villa, Unai Emery said, we'll see how the players who played yesterday, how they are. Some players weren't available yesterday, especially Emi Martinez, but it's a small injury for Emi, and hopefully he'll be available for Sunday. Yuri Tielemans, Amadou Onana, and Ross Barkley are not available. With Bournemouth, Iraola said, I think it's a very similar picture to the one we had last week. Enes Unal and Adam Smith are out. Then we have the situation with Lewis Cook. He is still in some pain in the shoulder. He is training with us, but we have to take a decision. We'll have to see today how he trains and see if he can travel with us, or if it's better that we leave it until next week. It's a decision we have to take today after training. Everyone else is available. No issues. We are in a good spot. With Brentford, there's no press conference updates, I believe. Nothing of note, because Keith Andrews did speak yesterday, and I did see his comments, but nothing in terms of injury updates and team news. With Brighton, Hörsler said there's some positive news. Mats Vifa is back, and the Kuiper will return. Jack Hinchelwood is still out. Overall, more options regarding our fullbacks, so good news. Gruder recovered this week, and Minter had some days off to recover. He trained yesterday, so he will be fine. Nothing on Burnley necessarily, and no changes from yesterday's predicted lineups podcast. But Enzo Maresca said this on Cole Palmer. Yes, we decided to protect a little bit Cole by taking him off early at Man United in terms of not letting his injury get worse. We decided to rest him for 2 to 3 weeks until the international break to see if with that rest he can recover 100% and be fit after the international break. So no Cole Palmer for the next couple of weeks, and he could return for Nottingham Forest away in Game Week 8 there. And in terms of coping without Palmer, he talked about different solutions like Neto playing up front. It's a bit early to think this will define the season. And he said Tosin Adarabioyo is injured. He'll probably be out until the international break. He has a small problem in his calf. Wes Fofana had concussion against Lincoln. The rest are okay. And he did talk about Robert Sanchez's red against United. Sanchez made a mistake at United, but we are happy with Robert and we are happy with Jorgensen, both of them. No problems with Robert. Mistakes can happen. It's a quick decision. You say we've conceded 5 goals because of these mistakes, but how many have we saved because of Sanchez? I think many. So those quotes bode well for Robert Sanchez. Hopefully he starts against Brighton. With Crystal Palace, Glasner said Ismail Assar had the full training week, the same as Adam Wharton and Eddie Nketiah. We always nominate the squad when we think everyone is ready to start. I don't know if Sarr can play 90 or 100 minutes. I don't know how intense the game will be, but he's ready. Yeremy Pino just had to rest on Tuesday. He had a bone bruise. He took a knock, knee on knee, which was very painful. But since Wednesday, he's been training and did the rest of the week. He feels fine, so he's also available. I mean, based on that quote, you could definitely say Kamada starts, which I talked about in my lineups video yesterday, but both Pino and Sarr are available, and they make up Palace's best 11, especially in that front line. Let's now move on to Everton. So like I said, I'm focusing on the teams where I've got the quotes from yesterday. So David Moyes said on Jared Branthwaite, he is fine. He'll not be available for Monday. Neither is Merlin Roll. Both of them are out. We're expecting Branthwaite back in full training shortly, but not yet. Then he talked about Branthwaite re-injuring himself, and he's disappointed about that situation. But Michael Keane's played really well for us. He's filled in great. No updates on Fulham necessarily, so we'll focus on Liverpool, because with Leeds there are no updates either. So Giovanni Leone will be out of an ACL injury, so that'll be close to a year on the sidelines. Hopefully he recovers soon. Arne Slot said on Alexander Isak, he is able to play minutes again. I still feel 90 minutes might be a bit too much. It depends on the pace of the game. Not only that, but for the long term, you can give a player one stupid hit to bring him in for 90 minutes, and then his body is too far over the line. I don't think it's smart to play him for 90 yet. He is further into his preseason now. Normally after 2 or 3 weeks of preseason, players get to 60 or 70 minutes. If you look at our preseason, we only brought them to 60 or 70. So basically, Arne Slot is saying Isak will play 60 to 70 minutes. We'll see about that. With Man City, Guardiola basically said with Haaland, he's ready. That's all you need to know. Rene, Nuri and Cherki are out. Omar Marmoush and Kusanov are also out, but Kovacic could return. And he said it would be very helpful to have Kovacic back. It's a long injury, surgery, but he's getting ready. He is not fully ready, but step by step. With Manchester United, Amarim said that Ahmad is not here. Someone in his family passed away, so we are giving all the support to Ahmad. We understood it was important to him to have his time and to return home. So I've gone for Mbumo, Cunha and Sesko up front, Dallo and Dorgu on the wings, well, as the wing backs, and that is pretty much the United lineup. With Newcastle, Eddie Howe provided a lot of updates. He said, we have a couple of players to check today. No major injuries from the game. Jacob Murphy is doing okay. It's an issue we are managing. He also said that Jacob Ramsey, his recovering is going well. He is on the grass working hard and building his fitness back up. I think it'll be after the international break that we see him. Anything before that, then he'll be ahead of schedule. Anthony Gordon is now back from suspension and he should start up front alongside Nick Waldemada, and it will likely be a 3-5-2 formation for Newcastle. Now, one update from yesterday is about Murillo. So Ange Postecoglou said, Murillo is still not where we want him to be. He is still doing individual training. We were hoping he'd have progressed a bit quicker. It was a pretty severe knock on his thigh. From my understanding, the healing process is just slower than we thought. He just needs to feel comfortable, so we need to be patient with him. He's out on the grass, so now it's just about incorporating him back into the team. And on Douglas Luiz, Ange Postecoglou said, it wasn't great yesterday, so we have sent him for a scan on his hamstring. He won't be available this weekend. We have just got to be really careful. He had a lot of issues last year, and he came here late, so it's better to be cautious. We will see what the scans say. There are no other injury concerns. With Tottenham Hotspur, Thomas Frank said the latest is that everyone... Okay, well, I'll move on to that when I have the Tottenham lineup. So, the latest is that everyone that was available from the last league game is available again. In midweek, Pape Matar Sarr was out as a precaution. He's trained today, so that's a positive. Colin Mwani's dead leg is dragging on. He'll be out for a few more days. Dom Solanke is not available. Dominic's ankle injury has been a little bit tricky. It's not too big. Hopefully he'll be back quick. It's not perfect, but we are going forward in the right direction. And there are only 2 teams left to cover all 20 of them again with these quotes from yesterday. Graham Potter said it will still be Aaron Bissaka. He is still missing with his stomach problem, but apart from that, everybody is available. And with Wolves, Vitor Pereira said this on Strand Larsen. We are trying to go step by step with him. Tomorrow we'll see. His condition is not 100% for 90 minutes. We must manage the time he can play. And I believe with Tolu scoring off the bench against Everton and playing fairly well there in the Carabao Cup, I think he could get the nod and Strand Larsen comes off as an impact sub, but ultimately it can be the other way around and Strand Larsen gets 60 to 70 minutes, just like Alexander Isak. So all of that is covered, and let's now go back to this team. Of course, I covered other graphics and team news, injury updates, and predicted points, all this stuff as well. Gunnar says, Dear Dylan. Oh yeah, you remember that, don't you? Play Caicedo or Stack. I'd go for Caicedo. I'd also play Van der Ven. And I have no Leeds agenda, by the way. I do like Leeds, but yeah, it would be Caicedo and Van der Ven. Also, do you prefer Rodon or Goodmanson? Probably Goodmanson there. No, Fadzri, you can see in the title of the video and throughout my content this week, I am triple captaining Erling Haaland. You can't play 2 chips at the same time, of course. Yeah, I think Enzo's on pens. Joao Pedro should be second in command. Hezron says, which is better, Bruno to Kudus or Ndai to Kudus? I like Kudus for the next 2 weeks, but don't sell Bruno or Ndai. Not long term. If you're wildcarding in 8, then maybe, but I'd probably just keep what you have, mate. Would you go Cash or Semenyo this week? Semenyo. Duarte says, good morning, Dylan. Is that a question mark? Good morning, Dylan. Would Ndai Rangers start 2? Yeah, tricky one, that. Reluctantly, I'd probably bench Wood. Just because there are some concerns about him starting. I think he will. But yeah, Rangers is a definite starter for me. I've actually got a poll out on my channel which is very similar to that. Let's go to that very quickly. And it's this. So I'm going to refresh it for the updated votes. I know obviously in this situation it's Gakpo, not Ndai. But yeah, most people would bench Chris Wood. I'm looking to bench Gakpo at this moment in time. And I'm starting Rangers, Wood and Ndai simultaneously. I'll also use this as an opportunity to go through the FDR one more time for those that maybe missed it. Liverpool, Fulham, Burnley, Bournemouth and United complete the bottom 5 of the FDR, whilst Nottingham Forest, Spurs, Chelsea, City and Everton are the top 5 ranked teams in terms of the fixture difficulty rating with Fantasy Football Hub. With predicted points, Haaland is top. Salah, Semenyo, O'Reilly, Foden are in the top 5, with Watkins, Joao Pedro, Bruno Fernandes and Reinders also in the upper echelon. Gvardiol is in that top 10 as well. And the other poll I put out was about my transfer plans. And ultimately, the winner of this poll is what I've done this week, selling Salah and Watkins to Bruno Fernandes and Erling Haaland for a -4 hit. With the predicted prices, I did put the link probably an hour ago at this point. Haaland should go up in price again to 14.4. The likes of Van der Ven and Gabriel should finally rise in price because they were expected for a couple of days now. But you can see all of this as well. Go to the website livefpl.net. Not all of these changes will happen, but a fair few of these will change, either going up or down in terms of price. And for Arthur, who asked about Foden against Fernandes, I did go for this comparison. I think if you're wildcarding in 8, it makes more sense to go for Foden. And to be honest, I might do that myself. And yet I went for Bruno Fernandes, who is more of a talismanic figure. The minutes are nailed on. He's on penalties, but Foden has been in brilliant form. A goal and assist against Huddersfield in the Carabao Cup, but the stats are heavily in Bruno Fernandes' favour. 3 big chances to Foden, 0. 1 big chance created, 15 key passes, the most of any player in the Premier League so far this season, and also triple the amount of shots. The XG is 2.61, but that is massively inflated from 2 penalties against Fulham and Burnley. The XA is quite low on Bruno Fernandes' part, to be fair, but it's still way higher than Phil Foden. And a lot of this is because of the reduced minutes for Foden this season due to injury and other factors. For the wildcard, I did make a video on this, but this is kind of like my final wildcard squad, I guess, for Gameweek 6. I'm not playing the chip. It's just a guide for those playing it. I'd go for something along these lines. You can also go for Tarkowski in that defensive line. You can maybe entertain somebody like Gakpo in the midfield if you want that extra Liverpool coverage, but I'd be less keen on Gakpo now, and I do like this sort of setup in the long term. You could also consider Kudus for Ndai short term, or Richarlison for Gyökeres as a 2 or 3 week punt, and then go to the Arsenal striker in a couple of weeks' time. That is something else you could do, but of course you would be booking in transfers that way, and maybe you could do something like Ndai to Saka by downgrading somebody else as well, but maybe in order to do that, you would need to take money out of your defensive line, either through Van Dijk or Gabriel. Maybe Donnarumma as well could be sacrificed a little bit. But yeah, just some ideas there for the wildcard users in 6. It's very popular this week. Lock in your teams, captain the right player. The same goes for the vice captaincy. That could be very crucial. Your bench order. It's all very important in Fantasy Premier League. And I'll go to FPL Challenge later because the main focus now is on FPL until the deadline passes. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 37,000 subscribers, and yeah, we'll make some big strides by the Tuesday deadline stream for UCL Fantasy. Stay tuned for the best wildcard and limitless squads. The same goes for my team selection, and watch my chip strategy guides for FPL and UCL Fantasy. They are very useful, to say the least. And speaking of which, in a few minutes, I will go through my chip strategy slides very soon. They are updated as well Thank you, Bram. I appreciate the kind words and good luck for Game Week 6. Drigger says, hey, Dylan, Dewsbury Hall versus Xhaka versus Richarlison, who to start? Definitely Richarlison. He is 6th in my captaincy list, actually. Maybe a bit too high for him, but I think he deserves a top 10 nomination. Ferris says start 2, Kudus, Ndai, and Gyökeres. Probably the first 2. I'd bench Gyökeres this week. Triple Captain Semenyo. He is my vice-captain, but it's still Erling Haaland for me. If you got the Norwegian robot, I'd highly recommend going in that direction. Even Phil Foden could be a great punt this week. But yeah, Semenyo is 3rd in my captaincy list, only behind the 2 big hitters in Salah and Erling Haaland, who is number 1 this week. Liverpool Agenda says, hi, is Goodmanson a good 4 million pick? Yes, the same goes for Alderete, Mukiele, and Rodon. Yeah, Goodmanson is one of the better ones and leads on near the top of the FDR. I think they're now 5th until Game Week 11, but yeah, I think Goodmanson's absolutely fine. I think the own goal against Fulham put people off him, but he's still a good option. Thank you, Kuka. The same goes to you. Good luck. Ahmed puts his team. What are your opinions? So you've got a double Spurs attack, which looks really good for the next 2, but I think that is sellable in Game Week 8 against Villa. To be fair, you've got a triple up with Sarr. I would definitely look to restructure your attacking line very soon. If you can, I'd recommend Pape Matar Sarr to Caicedo. That would be a brilliant upgrade long term. And I think you're missing Semenyo in that midfield. With Salah and Haaland, you've gone for a lot of cheap midfielders. So, yeah, ideally, I would upgrade that position as well. I don't like Dorgu personally. Good player, but in FPL, I don't really like him. Pickford is fine as a goalkeeper. He always is up there. That's fine. Estev as a 4 million option is okay. I do prefer Goodmanson, Mukiele, and all these players, but it's not really a priority transfer. You do have Wan-Bissaka there, so I think your defensive line and midfield could do some work. The front line is brilliant for the next 2. In a couple of weeks' time, I think Richarlison to Gyökeres looks like the right thing to do, but you would need more money there, and it might mean selling Salah. Doing something like Salah to Saka in a couple of weeks' time, then using those funds to get Semenyo in for Sarr, Gyökeres for Richarlison, stuff like that could really work for you. So just consider those moves, Ahmed, in a couple of weeks' time, but your main priority now should be on Sarr and your defenders. Maybe Senesi in that defensive line for Wan-Bissaka is the right call. Actually, you got Senesi, sorry. You got Senesi. Difficult one. If you could do something like Sarr to Caicedo for now, and then maybe Van der Ven for Wan-Bissaka, that could be fairly decent, but you might not have the funds necessary. Yeah, Marwin, Frimpong was injured until recently. He's now back, of course, started against Atletico Madrid and also against Southampton. Yeah, I think Frimpong won't start in this Premier League game against Crystal Palace, but very soon in the Prem, he will get the starts again. He is the first choice right back after all, but Liverpool can play Bradley there, Szoboszlai as well. They've got a few options, actually. So they have been creative with their solutions, and Liverpool are still getting the job done so far. I have Rangers. Does it make sense to bring in Foden for Gakpo? Yeah, I don't mind that. I even entertained the triple up in City's attack only for the next couple of weeks, especially against Burnley at home now. It's not something I'd advocate for long term, but for Game Week 6, I like the look of it, yeah. Hey Dylan, with Murillo not starting, I have Richards and Estev on the bench. Should I -4 to get a good starting defender? I think Richards could get Defcon and give you 3-4 points, which isn't great, but it's better than nothing. I'd probably just start Richards here. On Wildcard, would you prefer Burn, Salah and Pedro, or Richards, Gakpo and Isak? It would be Burn, Salah and Pedro for me. Waldemar or Mateta? Good question. It's a close one, but I'd still lean towards Mateta. Waldemar is someone to add to the watch list, but yeah, he could be benched still in a couple of games, especially with Gordon back. He can play up front. Osula scored a brace in midweek. And look, Waldemar will start against Arsenal. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But yeah, I do prefer Mateta. Baraf puts his team. That's a wildcard squad. Obviously, you got rid of that -20. I like the look of it. Once again, with Kudus, he's a short-term pick, but it could work well. You've got Mateta over Gyökeres. That's fine. I do prefer Gyökeres long-term. Not many complaints from me, to be fair. You've got Pope. Interesting. I think he's a good goalkeeper. Besides Ryan Donnarumma, Pope might be the 3rd or 4th best goalkeeper to invest in, and he's cheaper. So yeah, I like the look of it, to be fair with you. Another thing you could do is Richarlison up front for Mateta. and then either stick with Kudus or use those funds to get Foden. I think that's what I would do, Bareth, if you've got enough money. Richarlison for Mateta, short term, and Foden for Kudus. But that's just another idea for you. Is having 2 Formula defenders on a wildcard terrible? My guess is that you're trying to fit in Salah and Haaland at the same time. Let me know if that's the case there, Larkin. It's not terrible, but not ideal. I just think a Richards, for example, offers you far more security and clean sheet potential, even defcons as well, compared to most 4 million defenders. But something like Goodmanson and Mukiele looks quite decent on a wildcard. The same goes for Rodon and Alderete. They're quite decent as well. I'm not a big fan of the Burnley defenders, even though their fixtures turn very soon. And you've got Dubravka as your backup goalkeeper, potentially to cover that Burnley defence. Start Senesi or Tarkovsky. I'd go for Tarkovsky this week, actually. Now, yeah, wow, Graham Potter's been sacked now. That's a very weird time to do that. Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, no. What was happening here, by the way? Oh, I think I know what's happened here. That is very weird. What the hell? Why am I going on this? No, what are you doing? Yeah, I don't know what happened there, sorry. I was just trying to adjust it. I was literally going to play an anime there. Yeah, that would have been copyright strike very quickly, mate, I'm telling you. I don't know why this has happened. I need to maybe adjust this again. That is strange. I never changed this. Why the hell is this? I just noticed it now. Yeah, maybe I'm being a bot. Maybe I'm being an absolute bot. What is going on here? Yeah, people are probably thinking, what the hell are you doing? Okay, I'm going to do a bit of live improvisation, so bear with me. Obviously, we've got 20 minutes left until the deadline. I was going to play Jujutsu Kaisen whilst Graham Potter got sacked. What a weird reaction to that sacking. That is actually surprising, though. Just before the match day begins. Yeah, I do feel for him because he's obviously showed a lot of potential at Brighton. Got the Chelsea job. Also caught my eye with that Swedish team. I think it was Östersunds. He got that victory against Arsenal at the Emirates. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's happened there, but yeah, for some reason, I don't know what's happened with this screen. So I'm going to have to change this live in the stream, which is not great, to be quite honest with you. Maybe I'll do studio mode, that could help. So yeah, sorry guys and lasses, I'll be done in a jiffy. I just don't know why this has just changed all of a sudden. And I'm a bit OCD when it comes to this, so yeah, let's see if I can get this to work. Yeah. Oh my god, what is going on here, lad? Absolutely annoying. I'm not sure if the FPL website just keeps changing or something, but it's really annoying. Okay. So yeah, give me a second. Oh, apologies, but yeah, big shout out to Jujutsu Kaisen. Yeah, big shout out. And yeah, let's see if I can move the numbers quickly. I'll be done in a few seconds. Just give me a bloody second, eh? Come on. Okay. I don't know why I'm speaking Scottish, by the way. I do have, you know, some Scottish links, but let's not bait out myself. Yeah, you're probably thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? But yeah, I'll deal with that fully later. I don't know why the FPL website just looked different for me, but yeah, we're going to stick with something like that. Ah, oh, fuck, that's going to be too many changes though. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm not sure what happened with the FPL website. It just looks different to me on the screen. So I'll deal with that later, I think. So yeah, sorry lads and lasses. We are back. We are back with your questions. Yeah, will Sanchez start? Yeah, he was in my predicted lineups. I talked about that. But thank you to Twisted Parky and Baraf for letting me know about Graham Potter. I'm really surprised about that, to be quite honest with you. Sydney puts his wildcard team. Apologies for the wait. Thoughts? So I'm going to focus on the things I don't like. You've got 2 4 million defenders. Not the end of the world, but I would recommend having a 4-point family an option or something like that. So it could be Van der Ven, who is now 4.8 or 4.7. You could also go for Joachim Andersen, but I think Chris Richards is quite underrated for that Palace defence. The fixtures aren't great, to be fair. But look, with that, you can afford Haaland, Joao Pedro Gyökeres. You've got Stack in there, which is interesting, but I do prefer Caicedo still. I just think he guarantees you 4 to 5 points every week. Stack was impressive against Wolves, and I did talk about him in pre-season actually, especially in my promoted clubs video, but I do prefer Caicedo in the long run. Apart from that, not many complaints from me. I do like the look of the team. Since you've got Raya in there already, you might want to consider something like Gabriel to Van de Ven, and then using those funds to upgrade one of Goodmanson or Mukiele. That's just a possibility, but I do like the double Arsenal defence in the long term. It would be Van de Ven for me, Arthur. I don't like Anderson's fixtures. I would start Dewsbury Hall over Elliot Anderson here, and also Joachim Anderson as well, just to make it clear. Start Wood or Paqueta. Chris Wood, but maybe West Ham have a manager bounce now. I would not bench Watkins personally. If you've got him, I think starting Watkins is the way to go, but I understand why you feel that way. He has a brilliant record against Aston Villa. Yeah, because he's so bad. No, against Fulham. Doku, yeah, decent pun. I do prefer Foden though, and Reinders long term is the best City midfielder. Take Reinders or Ndoye out for Kudus. If I had to pick one, it's Ndoye. Not so sure about that. Thank you to that air for being a member for 31 months, hence the very prestigious badge next to his name. Start 2 out of Van Dijk, Gabriel, Gyökeres, and Caicedo. Yeah, great question. I think Gabriel and Virgil van Dijk have a decent chance of a clean sheet, to be fair. And also Van Dijk is good for DEFCON. I'd start Caicedo, oddly enough, because he can guarantee you 4 or 5 points. Anything else he gets on top of it is a bonus, whether it's a clean sheet, an assist, or a goal. And he might even get bonus points without even getting any of those things anyway because of DEFCON. So I would start Caicedo, and then it becomes extremely difficult. I've gone for a 1-0 Arsenal win. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, difficult one. I'm going to say I'm going for Gabriel. It sounds ridiculous, actually, because I'm really conflicted about that result. Either 1-0 Arsenal, 1-0 Newcastle, but I'm going to go for the Arsenal victory and clean sheet. So it's Caicedo and Gabriel for me, which is quite conservative. Yeah, and this one, Silly Bear, I'd start Gabriel. I'm more convinced about this one just because in terms of clean sheet odds, I would rank Arsenal higher, and so do the betting odds and stuff like that. Arsenal are 6th overall with the clean sheet probabilities. Would you play Senesi or Timber? I would play Senesi here. Gavardio, Tarkowski, and Van de Ven Gay. So yeah, if I have to pick one from each, it would be Tarkowski over Gavardio and Van de Ven for now. Yeah. Larkin pushes Wildcard team anywhere viable to downgrade to get a 4 million upgrade or an upgrade on the 4 million defender. Yeah, there's always a way, but you might not like the look of it because, to be honest, I do like your front line. It looks pretty good. But maybe Bruno Fernandes to Foden is something you could consider short term. Not ideal if you're looking a bit beyond the next 2 or 3 weeks, and Foden's minutes will be more of a problem, but that is a potential way of making that upgrade defensively. Yeah, something like that could work. Bruno to Foden gives you 0.9 million more now, I believe. Something to think about. Yeah, I think that's what sticks out to me. Otherwise, maybe Ndiaye to Caicedo. Tarkowski or Gavardio, Tarkowski. That's for the long term, by the way. For this week, I think any C defender would take the nod. Hey, Dylan, thoughts on picking Richarlison for my wildcard team? I talked about this just a few minutes ago. As a short-term pun, that's fine. Just don't expect much in terms of consistency and minutes in the long run. That's my advice. Fenerbahce says, hi, Dylan, would you sell Murillo to another premium defender like Gavardio? Yeah, this could also be Gabriel. My favourite way of covering C defensively is through Donnarumma. Thank you, Zane. Thanks, and always great response from you, Dylan. Don't forget to lock our teams. Yes, I've technically locked in mine, so that's why there's no kind of real late hassle or anything. I just don't know why my screen for some reason changed. I'll have to look, actually, at my last stream and see if this was like this. It really does surprise me how this has gone. But don't forget to drop a like. I have covered hundreds of your questions already. A big up to the whole community. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, there could be a reaction stream tonight. The most likely thing, though, is that will be tomorrow. And I'll record a UCL Fantasy video today and have it ready for you on Sunday. And of course, there'll be more on the Monday as well. But yeah, with FPL, I'm not sure what's happened here. Has the website changed again, or have I done something wrong? That is so weird. Yeah, I need to check the solution for that. Okay. I'll deal with it after the deadline anyway. That is, yeah, let's answer the questions first, and I'll deal with the graphics later. Mateta, Van Dijk, Kudus, Van de Ven, Romero, Richarlison, Senesi, Foden. Yeah, on the wild card, yeah, looks pretty good actually. Romero's quite underrated as well, and Senesi is a DEFCON machine. Foden, nice short-term punt, same with Richarlison. They could be transfers out in a couple of weeks though, but I do like the high ceiling they've got this week and also in the coming match days as well. Bada says Van de Ven, Konsa, Borro, Murillo, Esteve. Play the first three despite Borro doubt to start, or take it for O'Reilly. I wouldn't take it for O'Reilly. I'd start Borro, and if needed, you've got, well, probably Esteve coming in for you, which isn't great, but yeah, I think if Borro is benched, he will still get a 1 point off the bench, which isn't what you want, but still. I would play Rangers over Chris Wood. Yeah. Duarte, I'm not sure about percentages, but I would still give Wood like a 60-70% chance to start. I think Igor Jesus will come off the bench at around 60-70 minutes as well. Kudus or Xavi Simons, I think for the next 2 weeks it would be Kudus. He has a great record against Wolves. Any banger today? In terms of matches, well, I'll go through my scoreline predictions again after the deadline. Hi Dylan, thoughts on the Arsenal match tomorrow? If he plays that midfield, forget about a win. Yes, but in my predicted lineup, I've hoped for Odegaard, Zubimendi and Rice. Whenever it's Marino and Rice playing together in the midfield, it just doesn't work. And when you've got Zubimendi in there as well, you just need someone a bit different in terms of profile. So it's nothing against Marino personally. He's a good player. But I think for Arsenal, he's better off the bench or playing as a striker. So yeah, if I see Marino in the midfield and then trusted on Martinelli again on the left, then yeah, Arteta hasn't learned his lesson. Let's put it that way. It does make more sense to play Marino in that position alongside Rice and Zubimendi in an away game against Newcastle, but not against City at home, where Arsenal were having most of the ball, they were dominating, City were parking the bus. He got things wrong, he changed at half-time. Hopefully he plays Eze and Odegaard if he's fit. If he does that, I think Arsenal can win 1-0, or hopefully even more. Stack or Anderson? For this week, it would be Anderson. Long term, I do like Stack. My favourites in the midfield, though, would be Reinders and Caicedo at a similar price. I have Foden and Haaland. Both good options. I still prefer Haaland, though. Better chance of scoring, incredible form, and Foden could have his minutes managed. Yeah, no surprise there, John. So yeah, just have that confirmation is nice, I guess, of Haaland starting according to Lazy FPL. Thank you for the update there. I do appreciate it. Gary says 10 minutes to go. Locked in, guys. Yes. Or be sure to lock in. Confirm bench. Gakpo not in Die or Wood, Dylan. Probably Big Sam, but follow your gut. You know, make your own decisions. Definitely don't follow every move I make this season. As you can see, I'm having a shocker so far. Arteta's not the next one to be sacked, you know. Definitely not. I think Amram is still under massive pressure. Yeah, there'd be, to be honest, every manager in the league, bar Slot, is probably more likely to get sacked next than Arteta. I think that's the way to look at it. I mean, people might say, what about Maresca? If Chelsea, you know, have a winless streak for the next couple of months, you know, he immediately becomes a contender for the sack as well. So, yeah, as much as we can joke about Arteta and things he's gotten wrong, there's no chance he gets sacked anytime soon, in my opinion. Best free budget strikers on the wildcard this week, please. Budget strikers. Richarlison, if you can class him as one. Can Mateta count? If we're talking about proper budget, then you're going to say Isidore, Calvert-Lewin, and maybe Beto, actually. So it really depends on what you mean there. Mateta, Van Dijk, Curtis van der Ven. I covered that. Baraf looks fine to me. I do prefer those transfers short term. Ahmad puts his squad as well. Oh, no, he doesn't. FPL app is acting funny with me as well. Bought Semenya for 7.7 a couple of weeks ago, and for some reason he is priced at 7.5 on the transfer page. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing this season, but the app is really suspect, to say the least. Yeah, I wasn't aware of this issue in particular, just about the amount of transfers that people say they've got. Oh, can I make an extra transfer now because the app says I've got like 2 available moves still? don't follow the app. Look at the website from that perspective. Yeah, Potter to Villa, Emery to United. Never say never, right? I don't think Emery would go to United, though. Potter to Villa. I mean, who knows at this point, but yeah, Emery has plenty of credit in the bank, and he could win Europa League this season if they stick with him. King against Richards against Goodmanson to start. It would be Josh King. Not a big fan of any of them this week, to be fair. Start Watkins or Wood. Watkins. I think he's going to score. I've said this many times. I'm already braced myself. I'm going to try not to engage in the Watkins hate, but it's going to be very difficult for me. Zevem says, should I bring in Semenyo for Gakpo or Senesi for Murillo or nothing? Well, the biggest upgrade is Senesi for Murillo, in my opinion. That's what I'd recommend. Hey Dylan, rate Jadon Anthony as a differential pick for the long term. Yeah, he's decent. I haven't talked about him much because I prefer Caicedo and Reinders, but Jadon Anthony is a good option. Yeah, thank you, Wally. As he says, don't spam. Aranya puts a super chat. Sanchez, Frimpong, Lacroix, Van der Ven, Semenyo, Salah, Ndoye, Rogers, Reinders, Joao Pedro, Haaland, with Dubravka, Esteve, Renilo, Guillaume on the bench. 2 free transfers, 1.1 on the bank. So the bench is fine. Not much more you can do with that. I would consider Ndoye to Semenyo. Yeah, Frimpong, I'm not even sure starts. You got Semenyo already, by the way, so sorry about that. Okay, so I would go for something like Rogers to Foden. And I think Ndoye could be a sell in the coming weeks. And you could downgrade Frimpong to someone like Senesi. And I wouldn't even mind taking a -4 and then making another move. But yeah, that would probably pique my interest there. Yeah, something like Rogers to Foden short term. And then Frimpong to Senesi. I think that works fairly well, mate. And you still have a lot of money in the bank, by the way. Bench Cucurella or Eze. Difficult one. I would probably bench Eze. Took a -8 hit. Didn't want to waste the wildcard this early. Locked in, fellas. Cheers. Good luck, Bose. Or Bose. I'm probably wildcarding or limitlessing in UCL Fantasy very soon. But the plan is to triple captain in Fantasy Premier League now. No, I wouldn't go for Diaz in the wild card. It's either Donnarumma in goal or covering City defensively with Gvardiol. I would not go for Diaz. He's not even nailed on in that City team. He was benched against Brighton a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Diaz should start this week, Joe. But you can never say never with Pep Guardiola. Salah or Bruno captain. Salah's second in my list. Bruno Fernandes is just about in the top 10. I prefer Salah. Starting Boomer or Foden. Foden. Same issue on the website. Semenyo 7.5 instead of 7.7. So yeah, it's probably in the transfer section, right? I'll have a look now. Yeah, that's weird. I'm not sure why they do that. So let's go to the list view. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening then. I mean, for those that are unaware, by the way, there is a difference in selling price and purchase prices. So if you bought Semenyo at 7.5, and obviously he's gone up to 7.7, you need the player to go up by 0.2 million in your squad in order to gain 0.1 million in terms of value, but that still wouldn't make sense in that situation. He should still be at least 7.6 in that scenario, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but yeah, there is also that question of selling price versus purchase prices as well. Well, he's not a massive differential now, mate, but Foden is a good short-term punt, yeah. 3 best captains, that was covered a few times in the stream, but just to go through it one more time, I'm just going to go through this section. That is my top 10 captaincy list for those that are maybe a bit interested. So yeah, Haaland's top, no surprises there. I've gone for Foden in 4th. He could easily be in that podium. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, I've also got Reinders in the top 10 as well. And a few differentials in there, like Richarlison. Rotta isn't terrible, but he could go down in price to 5.7 million tonight. And I do prefer Caicedo, Reinders, maybe even Jadon Anthony. You've also got Stack and a few other options there. Ndai is a better option. So he's not really at the top of my priorities, to be fair. Nah, surely not. They're not going to sack Vitor Pereira now. They just gave him a 3-year contract. I'm not falling for that. Foden or Bruno on the wildcard. Long-term, Bruno is the better pick, in my opinion. I just think Foden's ceiling is higher now as you can see in my captaincy list on screen. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Long term is Bruno. Yeah, I think Saar starts today. Just rewind the stream and check out my predicted lineups video yesterday, but obviously the final lineups can be seen from today's stream. Hey Dylan, would you bench Joao Pedro or Saka this week? Saka. I'd bench Saka. Starting Boomer or Grealish? I'd start Grealish. Start Burn or Richards? Probably Burn. Slightly better chance of a clean sheet, in my opinion. Donnarumma or Sanchez? Donnarumma, yeah. Should I sell Borja or Van de Ven for Senesi? Well, I'd rather sell Borja. He's more likely to get benched tonight than Van de Ven. Who to start? Wirtz, Fulham's Anderson or Mateta? I'd go for Mateta. A7 Mad says, I will wildcard in 8. Should I sell Gakpo to Foden? I'd take the punt. You know, I think Gakpo is still a good option, but there is a chance of a benching in the next 2 match days. Should I keep Paqueta or buy Reinders? Yeah, as I talked about before, Twisted Parky, I highlighted your message. I would rather go for Reinders if possible. You don't have to do it, but it would be my recommendation. Aranya says, how is Frimpong plus Rodgers to Senesi and Bruno for free? Yeah, also looks really good. I just think Foden has a better ceiling over the next couple of match days. So if you are wildcarding in 8, Aranya, I think it might be better to go for Foden, but Fernandes is the better long-term pick. Yeah, I like those moves. I've gone Fernandes myself this week. I like it. Is it worth doing a -4 for Murillo to a C defender or Senesi? Long-term, yes, it is. I think Senesi is the best pick overall. If you were to go for a C defender, it's Gvardiol. I wouldn't go for anybody else at the moment. Hey, Dylan, would you bench Gakpo or Gyökeres? I'm playing Gakpo right now. Close one, but I would lean towards Gakpo as well, yeah. Should I start Kudus or Ndai? Kudus. You can also see in this list, Ndai is just about 10th and Kudus is 8th. I prefer Kudus this week. Reinders or Caicedo? This week it's Reinders. Yeah. You can also see it on screen. Who's West Ham's caretaker then? What about Juff? Yeah, so my predicted lineup for West Ham, I mean, that could ultimately change now with Graham Potter no longer being there. Hi, Dylan, start Gyökeres or Reinders? Reinders. Reinders is 7th in my list. Gyökeres isn't a terrible pick this week, but I think Newcastle-Arsenal will be a very cagey game. So, we are locking in just a few seconds. My final squad will likely be Sanchez in goal, Bodro, Konsa and Gabriel, with Fernandes, Reinders, Semenyo, Ndai, Chris Wood, Haaland as my triple captain, and Joao Pedro. On my bench, I've got Dubravka, Gakpo, Lacroix, and the suspended Reinildo Mandava. So yeah, that's what I've gone for in Fantasy Premier League. Start Gakpo or Saar. I'm actually very conflicted about this one. Probably Gakpo. Bench Mbeumo or Wood. I'd bench Mbeumo. Bruno and Timber or Gakpo and Gabriel. Bruno and Timber. Cryptus says bench 1. Probably Gabriel here, yeah. Close one though. Thank you, A7 Mad. Start Gyökeres or Mbeumo or Grealish. I would start Grealish. Good luck as well, Gary. Selling Salah to buy Haaland. So should I go for Bruno or Caicedo or Foden? I've gone for Bruno. Long term, I think he's the best one. They're all good options. Yeah, double check the triple captaincy is on. It needs to be a white circle and the writing is black. Yeah, my triple captaincy is activated, as you can see. It says triple captain active. It has been all week. And we are locked in. We are locked in there. Thank you very, very, very much. I've just... Oh no, I did triple captain it on my family members team as well, so that's good. Hi Dylan, triple captain Haaland, thanks. Yes, it's my recommendation. I've been saying it all week long. In a draft league, Elliot Anderson or Bergvall? Yeah, I think both of them start. Slight preference for Elliot Anderson. Why Constant instead of Senesi? I don't have a free transfer, mate. I took a -4 hit to buy Fernandes and Haaland. If I had a free move, yeah, I think that's a massive upgrade. But I'm also going for a Villa win and potentially a clean sheet as well, as you'll see right now in this section here. So, Brentford 1, Man United 1, Chelsea 3, Brighton 2, Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 1, Leeds 0, Bournemouth 1, Manchester City 3, Burnley 0, Nottingham Forest 2, Sunderland 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Wolves 0, Aston Villa 1, Fulham 0, and hopefully Watkins doesn't score, Newcastle 0, Arsenal 1, and Everton 2, West Ham 1. I'll let the rest play out. You can see team weakness, and Wolves is the one that's highlighted this week, with Mohamed Kudus being the main beneficiary from it, with a great record against them, 2 goals and 1 assist in 3 matches against Wolves. All of those returns came in home matches for West Ham, and you can see that heat map. It is perfectly aligned, in my opinion, with the chances that Wolves concede on their right flank. I think Kudus will do really well this week and might even score his first Tottenham Hotspur goal in his career. You can also see the clean sheet odds on screen here. Man City are top with Spurs, Everton, Forest, Villa and Arsenal in the top 6. Burnley are inevitably last, facing Man City away. And the last slide is what I showed you a few minutes ago with the top 10 captains. It's the last time I'll show it because, yeah, I've talked about this quite a lot here. I've got a few Tottenham attackers in the top 10 with Richarlison and Kudus. Haaland is top. Salah, Semenyo, Foden and Joao Pedro make up the top 5. I've also got Reinders, Fernandes and Ndai in that top 10. I also went through my lineups as well. But for those that are talking about chip strategies, this is my, or the slides I provided in that chip strategy video. Extra chips this season, AFCON transfers in Game Week 16. Everyone gets 5 free transfers in that specific game week. And these are the doubles and blanks later in the season. So we'll likely get blanks in 31 and 34. So a chip could be deployed in 31 as well. You could wildcard around Game Week 32 as well. And then set up a bench boost in 33. I'll talk about my current chip strategy, but of course, the first half of the season is the main priority right now. You can also see a breakdown of every single booster on screen, and I highlight some triple captaincy opportunities as well, and some potential weeks to bench boost, free hit, wildcard, etc. So you'll see my current plans very, very soon, but I do recommend you check out that chip strategy video, and what you see now are the updated slides with, you know, some more up-to-date information and a few weeks being changed here. So my current plan, and obviously you saw the triple captaincy activated on Haaland, is to use it in 6 against Burnley at home, wildcard in 8. The free hit is open. The same goes for the bench boost. I've just talked about the bench boost in 16 because you get 5 free transfers with AFCON transfers there. So you could essentially, for some people, by the way, you can wildcard in 13, bench boost in 14. That could work as well, in my opinion. And for example, wildcarding in 8 could facilitate a Game Week 9 bench boost. But for those wildcarding now, consider a Game Week 8 bench boost. It all depends on your strategy. It does cause a domino effect. One chip landing in a certain game week can make another week change a little bit. But this is my current plan with a free hit in 11, and the bench boost could be deployed earlier. And ideally, I would use it as soon as possible. So that could be in Game Week 9 instead. For the second half of the season, though, it's going to be very template to use the chips in this sort of sequence. Wildcard in 32, bench boost in double Game Week 33, use the free hit in blank Game Week 34, and triple captain in double Game Week 36. But there are alternative strategies. For the first half of the season, you can triple captain in 13 or 15 on a Salah or Erling Haaland. The wildcard could be deployed in Game Week 7 or 13 as alternative weeks. 8 is currently my favourite though. The bench boost in 9, 14 or 17, and the free hit in Game Week 13 or 15. But this could be deployed even sooner. I think Paredes mentioned Game Week 7. That could also be viable for some people. And for the second half of the season, a double Game Week 33 triple captain. So if the bigger double Game Week is in 36, you might want to bench boost there and wildcard in 35 to facilitate that immediate bench boost. And you can still free hit in 34 or in blank Game Week 31 as another possibility as well. So that's a lot of information for you today with the top 10 captains, clean sheet odds, predicted lineups, team news, injury updates, press conference updates, chip strategies, also answers to all your questions, my team selection with my transfers for a -4 hit. You got absolutely everything in this ultimate guide for Fantasy Premier League. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and keep your eyes peeled for use of your fantasy content over the weekend. A best limitless and wildcard squad for match day 2. My own team selection where a chip will be activated. My team selection. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing there. Deadline stream on Tuesday. Yep, that's going to be another one. Very hectic. And the plan is to do a reaction stream tomorrow. Yes, the reaction stream will likely take place tomorrow for FPL. I'll keep you posted on that. Otherwise, it will be tonight. But yeah, maybe a cheeky UCL fantasy recording will take place in a couple of hours. And after that, I'd highly encourage you to check out my chip strategy guides for FPL and UCL Fantasy, of course. And there's going to be even more content for Game Week 7 in FPL. And after that, I'll be taking a break from recording for an entire week. And I'll be back on track, of course, once we approach that Game Week 8 deadline in a couple of weeks' time. But there's plenty of content to look forward to. If you are a member or patron, you'll get early access to my videos, prior to apply to comments, amongst many other perks let's now go back to... Well, you know what? I'll keep this on for a little longer and see if I can fix my FPL website for some reason. I don't know if they changed or something. I'll be going for member questions very shortly and stuff like that. Thank you to those that are still here and supporting the channel. But yeah, did they change the website? Because for some reason... Yeah, I don't know why they changed it, so the dimensions are a bit different, and they looked different in today's stream. They just always change it for some reason. It's pretty annoying. Let's see if that works. Maybe I did something, but I'm just not sure what I did. That's really weird. So, yeah, I'm going to see if I can fix that now and have it ready for the next stream, which will likely be the reaction one. So keep your eyes peeled for that too. Yeah, that is really, really weird. Okay. Well, thank you to the FPL website for changing unnecessarily. I'm now going to make a few modifications to these graphics, which you won't see now, but you'll see them very soon. And hopefully this all fixed by then. Maybe we'll make it even bigger. Yeah, no, that's a bit too... Yeah, so thank you to those that are still here. Don't worry, I will be answering more questions. Obviously, we are a super chat goal. And yeah, as a kind of like a reward and also as a way to give back to the community, I will be going live for even longer. So yeah, I'll be going for more questions. That is the best part of these streams. I always enjoy engaging with the comments, especially when it's a bit more relaxed after a deadline has passed and all the stress, you could say, is wiped away. So hopefully that works. Then I need to change the chat overlay. So let's see if we can get a message here. Yeah, good luck as well, Safir. Good luck to you as well. And let's see. Let's make sure that chat overlay is moved a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure why FPL changed things. Let me know in the live chat. Has the website changed a little bit in terms of the dimensions and stuff? Because, yeah, for me, it's like it caused a big white gap. No bloody reason. Yeah, it's very annoying. Let's see. Yeah. Just making sure this is all good. I think that will work. Let's get a longer message up. Easy putting his predictions. 2-1 Brentford. Hopefully. Chelsea 2-1. Hopefully not. Liverpool 1-0. Another one, which I hope is not the case. Bournemouth 2-1. City 5-1. Forest 1-1. Spurs 3-1. Fulham 1-0. 2-1 Arsenal. And 2-0 Everton against West Ham. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Yeah, there you go. Now I need to change this a little bit. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to work again. So yeah, very soon I'll have this all sorted for you lot. Sorry for the delay. Just making sure everything is kind of perfect. Entre comillas, as they say. And let's get this show on the road as well. So yeah, thank you for the patience. 61, 62 dimensions. 80 bloody free. Come on, Dylan. Hurry up, son. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm bloody trying. That should be okay, I think. That should be okay. Hmm? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, enough of the dumb sounds and the umming and ahhing. Let's now move back to the FPL screen. Hopefully this looks better now. But yeah, this bloody website is always changing. I have to change the dimensions and stuff. So yeah, let's go back to some more questions. And yeah, let's bring up the live chat. Thank you to those that are still here. Aranya says, went for Foden over Bruno right at the end. Triple Captain Haaland plus Rangers and Foden makes my team quite differential in my mini-league. Some of the managers don't even have one City player in their squads. That's going to be very useful in my opinion. City have a great record against Burnley. 10 consecutive wins against them. Some 4 and 5-0s in there. Erling Haaland has scored a hat-trick against them in the past. I believe it was in the FA Cup against Vincent Kompany's side when they were in the Championship. So yeah, that looks really promising. The 7 forwards are mostly template. I hope Sels finally delivers. Borro to start and Const to get a clean sheet like last time he did when I benched him. That is the hope. I've got the same players there. And yeah, if they get the start and the clean sheet, I would be quite happy. Although a Spurs loss always is a nice way to kick things off. Let's go. Madrid derby. Hopefully Atleti win. Yeah, but they have been poor. Alvarez, though, with a hat-trick recently, could be one to consider in UCL Fantasy as well. Yeah, Wasting, that's not going to happen. Sorry to break it to you, but maybe 3 goals will suffice. Vamos Haaland, yeah, I was cussing that guy when he scored against Arsenal, but you can't hate on him. He's a quality striker, probably the best goal scorer in world football right now. Thank you, Jorge Mota. I appreciate your support as well, and good luck to you. Yeah, Dylan, predictions. Yeah, you just saw it, right, a couple of minutes ago. Obviously, these messages were from a few, minutes ago as well. And we should get a lineup in just a couple of minutes' time for Manchester United, and we can compare that to my lineup predictions. Same with Brentford as well. DJ NG EBZ. I don't know why I thought Dragon Ball Z there. I'm rolling my transfer and hoping for the best. We'll have 3 next week. Yeah. Not the worst week to roll, to be fair. But I've seen a lot of transfer activity at this moment in time. Jakob says, hi Dylan, start Van der Ven or Gabriel. Yeah, I've said this a few times throughout the stream. Van der Ven for me, but I've gone for a clean sheet for both teams. I just think Spurs are more likely. Twan says, hi Dylan, please help bench 2. Gyökeres, Caicedo, Gabriel, Kudus and Dye, Virgil van Dijk, Van der Ven, Senesi and Semenyo. Thanks. I would have benched Gyökeres and probably Gabriel, actually. Yeah. One of the rare times I'd say that. Out of topic, what happened with Aston Villa this season? Well, I wouldn't say it's completely out of topic. I've got Konsa in there. I just sold Ollie Watkins. Yeah, Villa have been the biggest disappointment so far this season. Only 1 goal scored in the Prem after 5 matches. I just think there's an accumulation of factors there. It's a lack of creativity. I think there are some team selection issues in there. Starting Pau Torres over Mings could help them in terms of their build-up play. Also not having Tielemans for a few matches has been quite costly. And not starting Elliott, for example, even though he's not been amazing, but at least he's shown something. He scored against Brentford in the Carabao Cup when they were knocked out on penalties. He gives them something a little bit different. Maybe Sancho over Buendia could also be a nice way of changing things up a little bit. So, yeah, I think Emery's made some mistakes. They're looking decent defensively, but they're not creating enough chances. Locked and good luck, Dylan. Thank you, Sudindra. Same with Awali and Laga. Saud says, wanted to use the triple captain this week. 3 to 4 players in my squad were dropping and players I wanted were rising, so I had to use wildcard instead. I mean, if you're making like 7+ changes on the wildcard, I get it, and there could be some significant upgrades, but I wouldn't be wildcarding just for team value, to be honest with you. Boom, says Gary. Captaincy, triple captain emoji, yes. Yeah, one of the emojis you can use as a member on YouTube. And I've also got the triple captaincy on Erling Haaland. Haaland. I actually used to have a Haaland sticker. Might need to bring that back. If he scores a hat-trick, I will definitely get him back. Yeah, Zaid says, hopefully Watkins doesn't score. That's all of us who got rid of him this week. He's going to score. I'm just saying it now. I know it because he's got a great record against Fulham. Whenever I sell him, he always does well. Yeah, exactly that, Saud. Only 1 goal scored this season. I think they'll score another one against Fulham and win 1-0. Look, if it's a 0-0 draw, that is perfect for me. Konsa, clean sheet and bonus. We will be there. It probably won't happen. Dylan, the triple captaincy when activated does not turn white. It just says it's activated. Well, it does, mate, because normally the the captaincy is black. The circle is black and the writing is white. Yeah, it's just always like that. But yeah, if you look at the boxes, of course, with the chips, it will say triple captaincy activated. Mine is on Erling Haaland. It's all done. Akil says, free hit, Donnarumma, Tarkovsky, Romero, Chalobah, Foden, Semenyo, and Dye, Bruno, Kudus, Joao Pedro, Haaland captain. Let me know what you think, Dylan. I like the look of it a lot. Chalobah, I've got some issues with, maybe long-term, but still a decent pick. And the rest looks phenomenal, especially that midfield. And I do like that front line. I'm not sure who's your third forward. It might be a budget option like Lyle Foster, but yeah, the starting 11 is in good shape. I mean, it's a free hit, isn't it? So yeah, that's really good. Chalobah's my only concern. I think Brighton will score. Sudindra says, I decided to sell Wood and Wirtz to Richarlison and Foden for a -4, plus I benched Rodgers. Yeah, I like that. If I were to take a hit for a striker this week, I think Richarlison would be up there for me. So looking good. Triple Captain Haaland as well. Thoughts on my wildcard team? Yeah, maybe a little bit different here. You've got Vicario in there. Double Spurs defense. Looking good for this week, but not long term. I still think if you wanted to double up on one team defensively, it would be Arsenal. And yeah, in goal, I do prefer potentially Pope in a couple of weeks' time. also Donnarumma and Raya. The defensive line is looking solid. The midfield is looking stacked. And speaking of which, you've got Stack in there. And up front, that's the best front three, long term. Not a hat-trick wasting, but a goal and assist, don't be surprised. I think he's going to score. Are we going to see more Graham Potter on Monday Night Football to hear how great he was at Brighton? Yeah, it's possible, but look, he did a good job there, and for some reason, he always does well against Arsenal. So actually, it might be a good thing for the Gunners, even though they were really struggling from set pieces, and they could sort things out and start Igor Julia now, for example, over Kilman. Yeah, Twan, so you saw it in my slides earlier when I covered the chip strategy. Every booster can be used twice this season, but it has to be one free hit, one bench boost, one wildcard, and one triple captain from gimmicks 1 to 19. And after that, you have one of each chip from gimmicks 20 to 38, but you can't stack them. So you can't have like 2 wildcards in the second half of the season or 2 free hits. You have to use it in the first 19 gimmicks of the season. But yes, we've got double the amount of chips, as Ovid says there as well. Twister Parky puts his score predictions: 1-1 Brentford United, which I've gone for, 2-2 Chelsea Brighton. And by the way, Twister Parky, you said, oh, you don't do well Brighton predictions. I got last week spot on, but you did fumble it. You were 2-0 up. You should have won. 2-0 Liverpool, 1-0 Bournemouth, 3-0 City, Forest 1-1, Spurs 2-1. Yeah, that's not a bad one, actually. I was considering Wolves to score. Villa 1-1, Newcastle 1, Arsenal 2, Everton 2, West Ham 1. Yeah, Everton's quite a difficult game to predict now against West Ham with no Graham Potter. Yeah, I'll go to my FPL Challenge team. That's a good point since we are locked in now. And I did say I'll go back to it. I've got no players who are aged 23 or under, so I might need to make some changes. If I want Gavardio to fill in that quota, it means getting rid of Haaland. You can only have one player from each club, which makes this a bit more difficult. So let me know which players aged 23 or under you'd go for. João Pedro turned 23 yesterday. That kind of ruined things for me a little bit, so I might need to reconsider certain picks here. Sefer says, I went with Van der Ven, Alderete, Ndiaye, and Richarlison in the end. Didn't go with Kudus. Yeah, Kudus looks good against Wolves. 2 goals and 1 assist against them, and all of them came at home. Yeah, you can still make changes, well, in FPL Challenge. In terms of FPL, I'm not sure why you're able to do that. Thank you, Gary. Dylan is the best pundit. I haven't been called a pundit too many times, but I'll take that. I'll bloody take that. Sefer says, a Leeds defender would have probably been better for bench boost 9. Yes, they are facing Burnley in Gimmick 9. That does make Leeds and Burnley defenders quite appealing, actually, for that bench boost. Something to consider on the wildcard in 6 or 8. But I think Alderete will get more defcon until then. Yeah. And honestly, even in a difficult game, you know, these Sunderland defenders can give you a return and defcon anyway, so Leeds versus Burnley will be quite tough to predict, actually. But we'll see when we approach that deadline. I chose Caicedo over Gyökeres and Gabriel over Van Dijk. Well, I did talk about this earlier. I think it was your question. And I did highlight those 2 players as the ones to start. But really close, to be honest. Really close. Yes, Affair, I went for 1-1. So yeah, I'll go through that one more time. But I did go for the scoreline predictions several times. I'm not going to read them out again, but yeah, 1-1 for the Brentford United game. And let's see the lineups because, yeah, that might influence certain things there. So let's bring up Manchester United and the home team Brentford, who will come first. So yeah, I just saw now for myself the news of Graham Potter. That is not great. And let's see how I fared with my predicted lineups for Brentford and Man United. Oh wow, so yeah, there's something I definitely got wrong already. We've got a player getting his first start for Brentford in 700 days. That is not something that I was thinking of. Not on my bingo card. Okay. And let's bring up Manchester United. Okay, let's start off with Brentford. So I'm reacting to it live. I only know one thing about it. So Keller in goal. Good start. Coyote, Vanderberg, Collins, and Hickey are in that back 4. So they have reverted back to this 4-3-3. Dangle Ouattara comes back in. So yeah, I got it wrong now. As soon as I predict Brentford to play a 5-3-2, they go back to a 4-3-3. But it does make sense. They weren't getting the results with that formation. So Damsgaard, Henderson, Yarmouk, all correct. So I've got a 9 out of 11 spot on with Brentford, Dango and Hickey. I mean, look, with Dango, I can understand that. Hickey's the big surprise, actually, for me. With Man United, Bayende in goal, Dalot, De Ligt, Maguire, Fernandes, Cunha, Dorgu and Bumo, Shaw, Ugarte and Sesko. I think that's a full house for Manchester United. I'll take that. That's the first time I've done that this season with United. You might be saying, oh no, you didn't have Dalot starting yesterday, but I did change it in the lineups today. So yeah, that's why I always say my final lineups are in my deadline streams. And once I saw that Dalot was available, he was immediately in my predicted lineup and Mbumo in his more traditional position in that front three. So yeah, that is 11 out of 11 for United. And for Brentford, it's 9. So if we refer back to my lineups very quickly, and yeah, you can see my, predictions for every single team as well. And yeah, I'll see how I do. Hopefully I can record a lineups podcast for Gameweek 7. No guarantees though. Like I said, it's quite difficult to maintain this throughout the season. But you just saw there with Brentford, I got 9 out of 11. If I quickly go back to that, though, in terms of the predictions, I've got 48 out of 55. So that's now 57 out of 66. Not terrible. With most of these, I've gone over 80%. I think Wolves is by far my worst one. And I've got a few 90% predictions as well. So, yeah, doing quite well in terms of the lineups so far this season. Chelsea, one of the worst ones for me. Difficult team to predict. Crystal Palace, kind of opposite there. Hopefully this continues. But I'll pause it on United just to show you what I went for with my final predicted lineups. So we are approaching that team soon. Obviously, you see Leeds, Liverpool, and Man City, all difficult to predict as well, especially in the case of the last two. And here with Man United, I needed it because I had 45 out of 55. I'm now up to 56 out of 66. So yeah, this is how they're lining up today against Brentford. And I'll let the rest play out. I think West Ham will be very difficult now to envisage because Graham Potter has been sacked. So we could see a few modifications against Everton on Monday night. So yeah, these are my final predicted lineups for Game Week 6. Not a bad start. Full house on United and only 9 correct for Brentford. But they have changed the formation back to a 4-3-3. And Wolves could be another team changing formations as they went to a back four against Everton in a 2-0 win in the Carabao Cup. And they did very well there. Johnston could also get the nod over Jose Sarr. So I'm going to go back to my FPL team, even though it's just kind of horrendous. But yeah, hopefully it does get the job done this week. And yeah, we can forget about United and Brentford for now. Those lineups have been covered. No real surprises there, unless I'm missing something. Hope Brentford win 2-1. Yeah, with a Fernandes... yeah, with a Fernandes assist. Well, goal, actually, would be better. Doku or Gvardiol on Fantasy Challenge? Gvardiol, for me. I think United better play a 4-3-3. Oh, yes, I've said that for a while now. Yeah, I think Sanchez will play. He's available, as I covered before. I even talked about the comments as well. From the press conferences yesterday, and based on that, I think there's a good chance that Sanchez starts again. Just to Parky, okay, calm down, I get it. New manager, Nuno Espirito Santo. Is that going to be in place before Monday, though? That'd be interesting. I mean, all of a sudden, Wan-Bissaka, once he's back, Diouf could be quite decent options. And yeah, depending on who starts in central defence, they can get DEFCON, a few clean sheets, but that would be a good appointment, I think. And Jeroboam is always a quality FPL asset. But yeah, I just saw the report by Ben Jacobs. Nuno Espirito Santo has agreed to become West Ham's new manager. I am not surprised about that at all. He could be in charge for Everton on Monday. Also understand that Kyle McCauley has left West Ham after Graham Potter was sacked. Okay. So yeah, didn't take long for Nuno to get his new job. I think that's a good appointment by West Ham. But yeah, I do feel for Graham Potter. It just didn't work out for him with the Hammers. So just going to go to that one more time. Show you the update on screen. So thank you, Twisted Parky. You didn't need to put it 3 times, but I appreciate it. Now FIFA banning the national team and 7 heritage players for falsified documents. Okay, I'm guessing this is in reference to, is it for Israel? Oh, for my country's national team. Dark days. Someone from another country complained to FIFA and likely sabotaged the national team. I saw something similar between Ecuador, I think Chile and stuff like that. And they gave Ecuador a 3-point penalty for the qualifiers, but they still finished second in the table. Plenty of assists from Rangers, please. Yeah, and a goal. I was so disappointed. The fact that he got an assist against my team, I benched him. It was a double whammy. I wasn't exactly a happy man last Sunday. But yeah, Danny, you saw my FPL Challenge squad. Let me know your thoughts. I'll probably make a few changes if I remember to, because you can still modify things until every game starts individually. Max says, thoughts on my wildcard. Yeah, quite similar to a lot of wildcards I've seen, but it looks good. Not many complaints from me. I prefer Caicedo over Stack. I've said that many times. I'm not a big fan of Isak right now. I think ultimately Joao Pedro and Gyökeres are long-term acquisitions over Richarlison and Isak, but you've gone about it differently. It's not a bad pick. And the good thing is you're covering Liverpool offensively in a different way, and you've got Saka. So from that perspective, it looks strong. I'm just saying Isak will probably get 60, 70 minutes today, and it's against Crystal Palace, who are unbeaten in 17 matches. Jackpot says, saw your team, Watkins out, Joao Pedro in, last-minute transfer. Watkins will score. I'm just saying that now, and I wouldn't be... I've said this all along, even when I do well in FPL and UCL Fantasy, the best thing to do is follow your path and, go through, just your own decision-making process, learn from your mistakes, and that's how you become a better FPL manager. Yeah, Nuno to West Ham, here we go. Yeah, really good appointment. Hi, Dylan, any fantasy challenge suggestions? Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm struggling on that front with players aged 23 or under. Gavardio's good, but I don't want to drop Haaland, so not an easy one this week. I always jinx with Watkins and Mbeumo. Not Mbeumo for me, but Watkins, yes. He's just a thorn in my side. I used the wildcard to get 10 new players. That makes sense. Cunha's back. No surprises there. He was in my predicted lineup. I got United's 11 spots on there. Watkins had a great record against Brentford too. Yeah, that's true. And ultimately, he's not getting enough service. He missed a penalty in midweek, but then again, he always misses penalties, to be fair. And Fulham are decent defensively. I just hope Fulham can keep Villa out, and it's a 0-0 draw. That's my hope. Only kept Semenyo, Dubravka, Reinders, Joao Pedro, and Ndai. I like those players. I understand why you kept them. Some people look forward to the weekend to have some drinks with the lads. I look forward to the weekend for FPL, to be honest. Everyone's different, right? What I like about FPL is doing the streams and stuff. It's really enjoyable, but when it comes to the points and seeing the red arrows, that is not enjoyable. So I need to change that and enjoy FPL more with better results. Vicario will go to Raya relatively soon. Makes sense. I think Gameweek 7 or 8 is the best time to do it. Binder, Dalot, Delic, Maguire, Bruno, Fernandes, Cunha, Dorgu, Mbeumo, Shaw, Ugarte, Sesko. Yes, that is the lineup. The association and players will be fined, and the player will be banned from playing football for a year. Interesting. Honsa or Juf, rest of my team is sorted. Well, we can't make any changes now, obviously. The deadline went past, almost half an hour ago. But I would have started Konsa. Now the association trying to fight back and appeal. Well, good luck on that front. I don't know the full context and whether, the player and the Malaysian Federation are guilty or innocent. But yeah, all the best there. Truffer is 23 and under. True, but not my favourite defender. I mean, I have gone for a 1-0 Cherries win, but not fully convinced about that. So Nika says, no way. Is that about Graham Potter? Yeah, and Nuno Espirito Santo. Laupus' FPL Challenge team, Roofs, Calafiori, Gusto, Doku, Gravenberch, and Richarlison as your captain. Yeah, good squad. You've got a few under 23 players in there. I'm not sure if Gusto starts, though, but either way, you get the lineups anyway. So not the end of the world. And I think Brighton will score. Doku's a decent punt, actually. He does fill that quota. But as I said before, I want Haaland. So that's why I haven't gone for him. Or Gavardio. Thank you, Sean. The way I adore your content and flow, your speed is proper engaging. Can tell this is your passion. Love the Spanish, I think, now and then, even though I don't understand it. Yeah, sometimes I try to bear that in mind and I translate it immediately into English, but not always because we've got so many questions to go through. But I appreciate the kind words and all the best for Gameweek 6 and the rest of the season. Twan says after Gameweek 7, I want to change Kudus to Mbeumo or Cunha. Not that necessary, though. I mean, it is Sunderland at home, but then they face Liverpool after the international break, so I'm not entirely sure about that. Mbumo's looking decent at the moment. Cunha was looking very sharp, of course, before the injury, but I keep Kudus for now and then reassess in a couple of weeks. Gary says Bruno. Yes. One for all says in midfield position for FPL Challenge, you can go for Caicedo and Gravenberch. Yeah, Caicedo will be the preference. Gravenberch, quality player, but not a great FPL asset. Exactly, that's a fair. Joao Pedro turned 24 yesterday, as pointed out by another viewer yesterday in the comment section, so I need to reconsider that, and I might go for Caicedo. Chelsea will struggle without Palmer. Yeah, potentially, and they have gotten some bad results recently, even with Palmer in the side, against Brentford and Bayern Munich. When is Cunha's time to shine? Maybe this week, or against Sunderland in Gameweek 7. It's about time he produces. You don't want to go in 007, do you? Like Benjamin Sesko. Why is Sanchez starting? I covered that already, mate. Sorry. That was talked about many times in my videos and in today's stream. He's not suspended. He's available. And Enzo Maresca's a big fan of him. Mina says, hey Dylan, I wildcarded this game week with 2 free transfers and 0.7 in the bank. My squad is Raya, Dubravka, Gabriel, Senesi, Van de Ven, Goodmanson, Richard, Semenyo, Ndai, Stack, Bruno, Reinders, JP, Haaland, and Gyökeres. I like the look of it. Double Arsenal defense is a little bit different to the rest of the pack. And yeah, not many complaints from me. I like it. Yeah, looks like a solid wildcard squad. As I've mentioned multiple times though, I prefer Caicedo over Stack. But yeah, a lot of people are keen on Stack after that massive fall against Wolves. How many points are you predicting? I'll be honest, as long as I get a green arrow, I'm happy. It just depends on what sort of week it is. Is it high scoring or low scoring? But yeah, I'm not too sure. The confidence isn't exactly there with the last couple of weeks being terrible, especially in 3 and 5. But it's a good team. It should get a green arrow. Hopefully it does. And we'll see at the end. I'll talk about this in my reaction stream probably. FPL David says, when do I wildcard? This is my team. Maybe around Game Week 8, I'd say. I think that would be a good time for you to wildcard. 7 isn't even, something to kind of discount. It could be a possibility for you. Same here, Zaid, but I think Watkins will score. Who will perform better? I covered that, mate. I prefer Konsa. You should have done wildcard today. I disagree, but thank you very much. Maybe should have kept Paqueta. Possibly. He's on penalties, but I prefer Reinders long term. Yeah, Graham Potter became a meme. Yeah, someone even asked him in his final press conference, and he didn't even manage that game. So I guess West Ham behind the scenes were getting the Nuno contract all done and dusted. They were making sure they could appoint him, and when that became available, they sacked Graham Potter. When do I wildcard? Yeah, that was covered, mate. Don't spam the chat, please. How's it going, Dylan? What's your honest thoughts on what's going on with Villa's form right now? Yeah, I covered it a little bit earlier. It's a issue of creating chances. It's kind of weird because in pre-season they were scoring goals, Watkins was on fire, but they were shaky defensively. And then in the Premier League, they're keeping a few clean sheets, they're not conceding many goals, but conversely, they're not creating enough chances, and Watkins looks like a shadow of his former self. But I think it's also an issue of personnel and team selection. Starting Pau Torres, Harvey Elliott will help them in terms of their build-up play and creativity. So yeah, I think that could be one possible solution for them, at least in the short term. But they need more signings, more quality, and a bit more squad depth as well. Tielemans coming back will be very crucial in a couple of weeks' time as well. Underreal says, Dylan, a few under 23 challenge options for you. Roofs, Calafiori, Gavardio, Truffert, Doku, Rogers, Xavi Simons, Anderson. Yeah, I like them. The most likely to be in my team would be Caicedo, actually, as Safar points out. And also Gavardio, which is a great pick from you. Predictions for Madrid derby tonight? Yeah, I'll have a look. And I will be keeping an eye on all the results from those Champions League teams as I build a wildcard and limitless squads. Yeah, let's go are at home. A lot of draws for them. They're 9th in the table. Real Madrid are top. Yeah, difficult one to predict, actually. A lot of their games have been 1-1 recently. Obviously, Real Madrid won the last one. Or they won in the Champions League 2-1, then beat them on penalties after losing. But yeah, Atletico have a strong record recently at home against Real Madrid. Their last loss was 3 years ago, I believe, in that stadium. I'm going to go for 1-1. Yeah, I think Madrid drop a few points, but Mbappe will probably score, as he usually does. That's my prediction. But yeah, thank you to those that are still here. Drop a like. Let's get this stream to 200. It would be greatly appreciated. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to keep up to date with all my UCL Fantasy and FPL videos and streams, then hit the notification bell. Join me on Patreon and the Discord server. The same goes for the channel memberships. All of that is in the description. Click the join button on YouTube. There is also my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, aka my Twitter, not X, you know, kind of weird to say that, but Elon Musk decided to name the app that way, I guess. But there's also my Spotify. Leave a 5-star review there. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. Thank you for all the support, especially to Paredes, all the people who have gifted memberships recently, all the super chatters, patrons, members, and subscribers. Thank you very much. A lot of growth in the last month. Let's keep on going. I wildcarded this game week, triple City attack for the win. I like the look of that. I was also considering it on the wildcard. Gyökeres is benched for me, so enjoy the haul, guys. Yeah, I really hope Gyökeres hauls, even though he's not in my team, but it's going to be a tough game against Newcastle. It'll be low scoring. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Yeah, Gavardio's been around for ages, you know, for Leipzig, for Croatia over the years. Do you think Xavi will do well today? It depends on whether he starts in the attacking midfield position. If he does, then yeah, I'd back him to do well and maybe score a goal. Thoughts on Eze as an Arsenal fan? Well, he's done fairly well, and he's still got levels to reach. He got the goal against Port Vale, very good goal, a nice team goal there. Got the assist for Martinelli against Man City, and also for Gyökeres against Forest. So very good start in terms of goals and assists. Some good performances in there, but yeah, I think he still has levels to reach. Yeah, Mina, I mean, people always ask me, of course I'm going to do UCL fantasy videos. It's where the bulk of the growth is, and I enjoy making Champions League content. It's just, I've been focusing on FPL now, and now the focus will shift towards UCL fantasy again. So just be patient. I'll try to make a video for tomorrow, but if not, definitely expect them on Monday. The team selection will be posted then. The deadline stream on Tuesday. The plan is also to do wildcard and limitless videos as well. Yeah, Saka Gyökeres will be a big debate. Right now, I'm in the Gyökeres camp, but if I wildcard in 8, I might lean towards Saka. This season might be more fun. Yeah, I would say that if I was doing better, but this is my worst start ever. Probably easy, but there's never a guarantee, right? Sometimes you get a manager bounce, and sometimes you need more time to, you know, work with the players and have training sessions and really implement your ideas and philosophy. Danny puts his challenge team: Raya, Truffert, Rodgers, Anderson, Pedro, Haaland captain. Looks good. Yes, Haaland is my triple captain as well. Bruno will get 2 goals and an assist tonight, 3-1 United. I'd take that. I mean, in an ideal world, Brentford win and Fernandes hauls, but everyone has their own opinion. I went for Esteval over Caicedo in FPL Challenge. Yeah, decent shout, higher ceiling, but Caicedo is so consistent. In FPL Challenge, I went for Pickford, Truffert, Salah, Caicedo, Richarlison, and Haaland captain. Looking good as well. Since the focus is on FPL Challenge, I'll leave that on for a little bit longer, and I'll be wrapping up very soon. Yep, Gavardia I'll probably go for if I decide to sell Haaland in FPL Challenge. Zetlin says, I went Caicedo and Mukiele instead of stack and burn, already regretting it. Long term, I think that is probably the best play, though. Caicedo is so consistent. So I have 2 players on the 23, Salah and Haaland. Yeah, hopefully there's a glitch in FPL Challenge and you can get double points that way, but yeah, it's not going to happen. Anderl with his FPL Challenge team looks good. Not a big fan of Sesko personally, but look, if you're backing him to score today, why not? West Ham are getting Europe if they get Nuno. Let's wait and see. I mean, he did so well for Forest last season, but yeah, West Ham will do much better now. I think they'll have an immediate impact, and it's just a big shame they're facing Arsenal soon. I'm not surprised by that. Easy says Brentford 2, United 1, Chelsea 2-1. Yeah, I think I went through your predictions earlier, didn't I? Because you said 2-1 Arsenal and stuff like that. Who do you think will be the second manager to be sacked after Potter? Yeah, there's Amorim, who's a possibility. So if they don't win today, the pressure's seriously on because of a loss against Chelsea. Sorry, they'll just play Chelsea. A loss against Liverpool, and he could be out of the door. To be honest with Graham Potter, I thought he'd get this weekend and then get sacked during the international break. But yeah, the other manager I'm looking at is... I was going to say Vitor Pereira, but that new contract extension obviously puts that to bed a little bit. But I've been saying from last year, I think Vitor Pereira will, have a good impact to begin with and then kind of, dip a little bit. But yeah, difficult one to say, actually. Difficult one. Amorim is the most likely. Are you close to Wildcard or Limitless? I'll talk about that very soon. I need to do more research as well. Make an updated version of both teams because I did make a draft already for both. But the Wildcard is probably more likely. I do like the Limitless a lot, though. It's very close for me. Yeah, Dembele Ballon d'Or win. Yeah, deserved. I just think football's dropped off massively. 10 years ago when Messi won it, I think Dembele would have struggled to get into the top 5, even with the season he had. He had Neymar in there, Lewandowski, Suarez, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Messi, who would always win it, in my opinion. Easy says, from being in the hospital to recovering to become the best in the world. Well, a lot of players have, career-threatening injuries or a lot of problems. Ousmane Dembele always had the talent to be one of the best players in world football. For him to win a Ballon d'Or is quite surprising to me, especially when you see players like Xavi, Iniesta, Neymar never win it. But look, football was a bit different nowadays. Lamine Yamal's dad so furious about the decision. I mean, look, I don't know him personally, but Lamine Yamal's dad does seem a bit controversial and a bit egotistical and stuff like that. But there you go. I prefer UCL Fantasy over FPL. The rank is better than where I am now, which isn't saying much, but it's still the worst I've ever been in UCL Fantasy too. So I need to get back on track soon. Barca fans PR2 overhyped. Yeah, but same with Madrid, right? I think Madrid have the biggest PR when it comes to Ballon d'Or. Barca would be second. I think playing for those clubs brings a prestige and it gives you a great chance of winning it. Yamal will inevitably win multiple Ballon d'Ors in the future. And from the future, top scoring player this week, Gibbs White. Okay, I'll try and remember that rule or two. Maybe I'll make a note of it, but I disagree with you. I don't think that'll be the case. Yeah, Rafinha finished 5th in the Ballon d'Or rankings. He didn't get a single vote to win it. I think Rafinha was better than Yamal over the course of the season, but there was a big push for Yamal towards the end. In the contract that Rafinha signed, if he wins Ballon d'Or, Barca have to pay money for Leeds. I saw that, so it made sense why they were pushing for Yamal to win it. Also a homegrown La Masia talent. Wonder if Barca fans prefer Yamal than Rafinha? Yeah, most of them will. Do you think City are back and can win the league? Yeah, they can win the league, but they're still the third favourites behind Liverpool and Arsenal. I think Liverpool are the favourites to win it with their investment, being the Prem champions and also their start to the season. But yeah, I think City will be the third favourites. Kudus over Gyökeres 1 week punt? Yes, as covered before. Sefer says Rufs, Truffer, Ndai, Caicedo, Haaland captain, and Richarlison. Looking good. Yeah, Richarlison is someone I might bring in, actually, and then go for Caicedo. I was thinking of that. But then it means selling Semenyo, who is obviously not 23 or under. So yeah, let's jinx Richarlison. Come on. And let's bring in... let's take away Vicario. Let's also bring in Caicedo. And defensively... Oh dear, this is where things get difficult. Maybe I'll bring in Pope just to jinx him. Rufs isn't a terrible shout, but I'm not so sure about that. Yeah, I'm looking at the list and I'm uninspired by the goalkeepers this week, to be quite honest with you. Marco Bizot. No, Emi Martinez should start if he's fit. But yeah, I'm looking at these players and that's disgusting. Vicario, Donnarumma, they're my favourite goalkeepers this week. Let's go for Rufs for now, but I'll probably change that. Pope. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's jinx Newcastle. Go on. Yeah, that's my current FPL challenge team to introduce Caicedo for the DEFCON and the under 23 quota. Richarlison in there to jinx, and Rufs Pope just to jinx. Why do you think football has dropped? Rafinha and Salah had a Messi, Ronaldo. Really? Type statistical season? No, they didn't. Mate, Messi and Ronaldo in their prime were scoring 50, 60 goals. Messi was getting 20, 30 assists every year. And the level of Messi's play is far beyond any player nowadays. So, yeah, I have to disagree with you from the bat. PSG players were there because they were untouchable until the final against Chelsea. Look, PSG have a good team. They were the best team, in club football. There's no denying that. But Rafinha was brilliant in the Champions League. I'll give you that. Salah, nowhere near it in the Champions League. He had a Ronaldo-esque season for the first half of the campaign, maybe, but he then tailed off for the last 6 months. So I disagree. I think football has dropped off because if you look at 10 years ago, you had world-class players in every single position. Nowadays, I struggle to name you a world-class fullback, for example. Hakimi might be one of them, but he pales in comparison to Philipp Lahm, to Dani Alves, to Zanetti, and all these quality players over the years. I just think it's a natural consequence of the direction football is in. It's more tactical, more robotic. There's less freedom, less artists or fewer artists. It's just how it is, but I prefer football from before. You could say it's a nostalgia emergent sort of thing, but yeah, I think football was better beforehand. Mina says, do you think Saka's nailed on? I was thinking of bringing him in on the wild card, but wasn't. Yeah, Saka should start most games, but his minutes need to be managed, especially with Madueke out injured. They can play Martinelli on the right. They can also do something a little bit different. Yeah, I think in terms of options on the right, Wanyeri can also play there if needed. But Saka should start most games, but he needs to be managed. Yep, Nuno appointed. Good signing there for West Ham. Do you think Gyökeres in the prime pick for next week? Yes. Yeah, I think so. Dylan Juju, hopefully. Will you play GTA 6 when it comes out? Probably. Not sure about a cheeky playthrough. If the channel changes to a gaming sort of thing, which I don't rule out, I've said that for a few years now, then yeah, why not? It's the biggest game that's going to be released in the next couple of years. Maybe make a special Dylan RCN gaming channel. Possibly. This is already enough of a grind, though, to have a second channel and then be consistent there. Yeah, it'll be tough to maintain, and I'm kind of like an all-in or all-out kind of guy, so yeah, we'll see. It'll probably be on this channel if I were to do that. Captain Ahmed says, brother, help me. I'm -8 and not triple captaining Haaland. Is it good for me if Haaland blanks? Yeah, probably. It probably is if he blanks and if, yeah, if your -8 pulls through. It's just a question of effective ownership, EO, and for those that don't triple captain Haaland, you'd probably want to blank there. Breezy says, does FPL even require skill? The majority of people in the top 100k don't plan at all. There is always an element of skill in FPL and UCL fantasy, but I always say this, even when I'm doing well, a lot of it is down to luck. Sometimes you get, you know, a lucky return or maybe a benching elsewhere, which causes this player to start, and then you get a lot of points. A domino effect can be caused. Maybe a double game week comes in or a blank, and that kind of falls in your favor. So ultimately, yeah, a lot of it is down to luck. What percentage? That's up for you to debate, maybe 70%, but there is always an element of skill. If you consistently do well, you make good decisions which give you the best possible chance of getting lucky. That's the way I look at it. Easy says next season Ballon d'Or likely based on who wins the World Cup. That's always pretty much the case. It's a shame Suarez never won Ballon d'Or. Yeah, but it's understandable why he didn't. You had Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi there. Anderl says, that's why I have Gyökeres in challenge to jinx him, as I have Woodstill and Doku captain. I don't think you need to jinx Gyökeres. I think he'll blank against Newcastle, but yeah, West Ham might be more difficult now in Game Week 7 with Nuno at the helm. And Doku captain. Yeah, I mean, look, Doku's very frustrating, but this could be a decent week for him. It's more fun to not have a similar team. Well, I usually do that, right? I change things up a little bit, but with Haaland, I just captain him, I think, in both fantasy formats. I agree with the Salah take. Who do you take next year? I think it comes down to Yamal versus Mbappe. Yeah, Harry Kane's been brilliant so far, and, you know, you've also got Erling Haaland in there, but maybe playing for Norway won't help him. I think they'll qualify for the World Cup, but not go far enough to maybe give him the platform to win the Ballon d'Or. But if City win the Champions League, that will help. Yeah, I think Mbappe will be the main one against Yamal. I agree with you, and Harry Kane could be an outside shout right now. How many of Ronaldo and Messi's Ballon d'Ors do you think are not deserved? Yeah, look, for me, Messi arguably deserved more. I know that's an unpopular take, but I think he was the best player in the world for maybe 13 or 14 of the last 15 years. Maybe you could say 12. That's certainly debatable, but yeah, with Ronaldo, he won the Champions Leagues, right, in years where Messi didn't win the Ballon d'Or, so you can understand why Ronaldo won it. If it's based on the best player in the world, then yeah, I think Messi would have deserved one or two more, maybe, in my opinion. With Ronaldo, the one he probably didn't deserve was 2013, but he did score 69 goals, so it's not like the worst Ballon d'Or winner. That would be Nedved against Henry. That was the biggest farce in Ballon d'Or history. Even Modric, you could say, who was quality in 2018. Did he deserve it over Ronaldo and Messi? Probably not, but there you go. So yeah, if anything, I think they deserve more, especially in the case of Messi. Which one is the best for this game week between Saka and Isak? Isak. Suarez was too busy biting people. Yeah, he missed more games through suspension than injuries, which says a lot about him. Quality player, though. What would have been the best option, going with Ndai and 1.6 in the bank or Foden? I'd probably take the punt on Foden short term, but if you are kind of looking a bit longer term, bigger picture, I do like Ndai a lot. He was in my wildcard video, but yeah, probably Foden here. I haven't bought FC 26 yet. I also didn't buy last year. The game is actually good this time. I'll have a look. I haven't seen any reviews so far, but people always say this, and then EA release a patch like 1 or 2 months into the cycle, and then it gets worse. I don't know why they do it, but there you go. If you had to play FPL without looking at ownership stats at all, how different do you think your team would look? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I mainly look at ownership because of my research to conduct the best possible information and videos for FPL. Maybe a little bit different, but not by much. I don't base my transfers and stuff on ownership most of the time. Mario says the only player I'm scared this game week is Kudus. Yeah, I think Richarlison as well. Spurs attackers look viable against Wolves. Reinders, Foden, and Semenyo and Bruno. I think they're all better long-term though, so you should be fine. Is FC Mobile good? Probably not. Football Manager Mobile, can't really talk about that. I played a bit of Football Manager on my laptop, and yeah, it's a good game, but I just prefer having control and, you know, playing a bit FIFA-esque with my squad. But there's no doubt that Football Manager has more nuance and detail to it. Yes, affair with the messy emojis. Jason says, I don't think player individual quality has dropped off too much. The demands of today's game has necessitated more of a team effort rather than individual brilliance. Do agree that football peaked in terms of a spectator sport from the mid-90s to around 2010. I still think, though, the level of Messi, for example, and Ronaldo won't be reached by any player of this generation. Yamal is the most likely to reach that sort of level, but I'll be honest, I might go out on a whim. I don't think he reaches Messi's level. Personally, I don't think that way. Do you agree Lewandowski was robbed in 2020? Yes, but there is a general misconception here. Messi didn't win the Ballon d'Or in 2020. It was scrapped. It was cancelled. Messi won the Ballon d'Or the following year, where Lewandowski was also a contender, and he would have been a worthy winner. Lewandowski was robbed in 2020, yes, because he was the best player in the Champions League. He scored the most goals of any player in world football, and yet the Ballon d'Or didn't give an award. I think he should have been given it retrospectively, but because of COVID, he wasn't. Andros says, all right, good luck, Dylan. Chat, see you in the UCL stream. Yes, on Tuesday, which will be very busy. And if possible, I'll do a FPL reaction stream soon. Favorite Need for Speed game? The one I played the most was on PSP. I think it was... was it? Man, let me get the name. It was from like 2005 or something. Carbon, PSP. Yeah, I think it was Carbon. Need for Speed Carbon. PSP. That's the one I played the most. Owned a City. Yeah, so that's probably my favorite one, just because I played it the most. PSP, by the way, I revived it. PS Vita as well. I've been, well, a few months ago I was playing it. Hopefully I can have a bit more time to enjoy more games. Same with the PS5, which has been quite poor, in my opinion. Benzema was possessed that season. They won UCL. Love the guy. Do you think he's better than Suarez? No. I think Suarez is better, especially in his prime. Benzema had multiple years at Real Madrid where he was sometimes the second choice, or he'd miss big chances. He had Higuain in there. Benzema, quality striker. He probably aged like a fine wine, and he had his best year at Madrid in 2021-22, but he's not better than Suarez. Safar says COVID was such a poor excuse. Yeah, they still could have given the award to Lewandowski. It makes no sense. Yeah, Underground is a really good game as well. Most Wanted, very good one too. I'm just saying my favorite based on the one I played the most. I'm not saying it's the best one. Freedom says Petrovic, Romero, Senesi, Tarkovsky, Bruno, Captain, Semenyo, Ndai, Enzo, Haaland. Yeah, you didn't even captain Haaland, so you're really hoping for a Haaland blank there. Good squad. Chris Wood is a bit of a doubt now. I think he'll start, but very soon we could see him benched. I think he's a sell in the coming weeks, but good squad in general. It's looking in a good shape at this moment in time, but not captaining Haaland could be the main downfall there. So yeah, thank you, Mohammed. And Chelsea Blues 99. Yeah, look, no problems with Most Wanted. I played it as well, but yeah, I just played Carbon, Own the City even more. Chelsea Blues says, having both Haaland and Salah good long-term. I just think there are limitations elsewhere, and you might want Saka or Gyökeres in the attack, and there's also Cole Palmer after the international break potentially, but yeah, it's just a bit restrictive in terms of budget. I did provide a draft in my wildcard video with both of them. Kane is 100 in 104 games. Your top 3 striker of all time? No. Harry Kane is one of the best strikers of his generation, but of all time, Pele, R9, Van Basten, Thierry Henry. Yeah, he's not hitting that, sorry. Suarez is better. there's probably even more where that came from as well. Yeah. Romario is arguably better. Harry Kane is brilliant. He deserves credit. He might be the best striker in football right now. He's not better than those strikers I just mentioned. I remember when Haaland scored a hat-trick last season, and I triple captained him, I think, and people were saying, is Haaland the best striker ever? No, he isn't. Could he become the best goal scorer of all time? Maybe, but he's not. He's not the best ever. Have you ever used FPL Mundo? I don't think so. Haaland hat-trick incoming. I think you'll score a brace or a hat-trick, yeah. Yeah, maybe it's a bit of an underrated game there, Twister Parky. I liked it. Where would you rank Salah at all-time right wingers? In the Premier League, he might be number one, but let's not forget Ronaldo was a right winger for Man United. Of all time, he's not in the top 5, probably not in the top 10. Let's not forget Messi's a right winger, Garrincha. There's many more where that came from as well. I mean, there is this debate about him versus Robin and stuff. That's quite close, and everyone has their own opinion, but no, I don't think Salah's top 5 wingers of all time or anything, just to break it to you. In the Premier League, yeah, he's probably the best. Haaland, Kane and Mbappe is top contender for Ballon d'Or. I just think Haaland will be let down by the World Cup in Norway. He might score goals, but they'll be knocked out relatively early. Welcome, Kevy. How we doing, bro? Not sure if my messages went through. I don't think I saw them. I'll have a look afterwards, but yeah, sometimes I just don't see them. I answer as best as I can. Good luck as well. Forza or F1? Well, probably F1 for me. And also, I'm a PlayStation guy. I don't have Xbox. I've only played Xbox at a friend's house, basically, over the years. So it's going to be F1. Even recently, I've played F1 a little bit, and I used to play them all the time, actually, Formula 1 games. Will Haaland become top goal scorer of all time? If he stays fit, yeah, there's a good chance, but it doesn't mean he's the best striker ever. Do people underrate Suarez? Yeah, exactly. And also the dribbling. He scored some brilliant solo goals, long shots, dribbling, like the goal against Colaccini for Liverpool. Haaland goal based on club and national team. Baggio and Romario were crazy good. Yeah, even Batistuta. I mean, as much as I love Batistuta, you could definitely say Kane is better than him. But yeah, Batistuta, pure goal scorer. There's so many players to talk about, really, over the years. Kevy says, it's okay, gets busy here. I have Wildcard active with Haaland and Salah. Yeah, a little bit different. Most people are dropping Salah for Haaland. If Norway advance at least once in the World Cup, would it change your perspective on Haaland? Yeah, they could be through to the round of 16. I'm not, discounting that, but I don't think they'll go to the quarterfinals or beyond. Never say never. They've got a good team, or at least some promising players like Odegaard. Oscar Bob is also very talented, and a few others there. But I just think Mbappe will go far. France will be one of the favourites for the tournament. Yamal, I mean, Spain will be top 2 or 3 teams in the national kind of side of it as well. And in terms of the Champions League, I also think Madrid and Barca have a better chance than City. So Suarez was a complete striker. He assisted a lot of goals too. I agree. The reaction stream will probably be tomorrow. I'll keep you posted, but yeah, there's a game at 8 p.m. today. There might be more people tuning in. So yeah, I'm not, fully discounting it, but I also want to record a UCL fantasy video very soon. So last few. So don't put in any more questions, please, because I will be wrapping up. If you want, anything else covered, join the Discord server, put your thoughts in there, and leave a comment in the comment section here. In Boomer Bowen, my differential picks, Bowen the only forward to play every minute so far, no Europe, a talisman, and always underrated. And now they've got a new manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, who could be in place for Monday. Well, I hope so. I mean, retaining the World Cup is so difficult. The last team to do it was Brazil, back when it was called the Jules Rimet Trophy. So in the World Cup era, since 1974, it hasn't been done. I think Argentina still have the best national team, but Spain and France are so close now. And I think Argentina's level has dropped a little bit in the last couple of months. And it's natural, right? Di Maria retired from the national team. Messi is no longer the same player. Still brilliant, but not as effective on a consistent basis. Mario says, I'm 11 points behind on my mini league. 5 players different. Yeah, you can definitely win this month. 11 points is nothing. One says, yeah, I didn't mean including Kane. Besides Kane, top 3, maybe in the 2000s. R9, Thierry Henry, and Luis Suarez. Ruler 2 says, just imagine France versus Spain final. Hopefully not. I want to see a South American team in it, and to be honest, I don't like Brazil in national team terms, because we have a rivalry in football. Yeah, it'd be boring if it's a European final again. We've got the Euros for that, so I don't want to see it personally. It might be a great game, but we've seen it in the Euros last time out in the semi-finals as well. Other than football, what 5 sports do you like? I'm not sure about 5, mate, but tennis, F1 would be up there. I like basketball from time to time, but mainly in the Olympics. So, yeah, I struggle to say 5. There's other sports I like playing from time to time. Like even cricket I enjoyed, playing it a little bit, I guess, but it's not something I like to watch. The same with golf, but F1 and tennis would definitely be the standouts besides football. Sofair says, great stream, Dylan. Time for a green arrow. Yes. And thank you, Mina. I'll see you very soon in the reaction stream, hopefully in the next day or so. I'll keep you posted. And stay tuned for UCL Fantasy content. If you haven't already, drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell. This stream will be coming to an end. I've been going live for over 3 hours, so it has been another mammoth live stream as we close in on new goals like 37 subscribers. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fair access to my videos, prior to apply to comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, Spotify can all be found in the description. The same goes for my X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can find me by typing FPL Dylan or Dylan RCM. I'll see you for the best wildcard and limitless squads for UCL Fantasy heading into match day 2. My team selection will be published on Monday for the Champions League, and the next deadline stream will be on Tuesday. That'll be very hectic, so keep your eyes peeled for that one, and hopefully I can do a reaction stream over the next day or so. All the best of luck for Game Week 6, of course, and the rest of the season, and I'll see you very soon for more FPL and UCL Fantasy content.